Here we go.
Yep, we're
You ready to
back.
roll?
I am.
We're back, guys. Nobody gave a shit about superheroes,
That was
so here we
disappointing,
are.
wasn't it?
That was disappointing, especially after all the hard work we did and we put into that
And all the
show.
mental anguish of watching some of that stuff, right? I mean,
But no one wanted to sit through the audio anguish of listening to it. Hopefully, we get a few more people tuning in tonight. Give us a
yeah,
shout in the chat if you're here. We like that. Doing my John Tesh voice, my late night radio voice. Hey guys, thanks for coming back. This is our fourth live stream. That's pretty good.
yeah.
They say the average podcast goes for 6 episodes.
Is
So
that
if we
right?
can beat those, yeah, before you give up and you're like, fuck it, no one's listening. But you know, on YouTube, it takes perseverance to make it get done. Trembling colors in the house. Oh man. Today, Ryan, what are we talking about?
We have a very special topic today. It is not quite October, but it will be soon. So we are moving ahead with a very Halloween-inspired topic for the next couple shows, and we're talking about one of the greatest horror studios of all time, one of the greatest horror. I guess you could call it a franchise as well. No, it's not technically that, but that would be Hammer Studios and their voluminous output of horror films.
You got it, man. We were talking a little bit about this in one of our conversations. Sometimes I call you up and we just chat. Hammer, I don't think that they have very many, and disagree with me if you want, very many super standout films where you go, this transcends the genre. And I do think Hammer is sort of a genre unto themselves to a certain extent. And you have to check it out and watch it. I think Hammer is actually best digested and understood as a series of probably like 40 movies, right? You probably do have to watch like all of them to get into the vibe, at least 10, right? It's hard to describe what they did and what they're about without like having a bigger grasp on what they tried to do and seeing how all those movies relate to the other. Am I full of shit on this?
No, I agree. It's you get kind of like, I guess could you say like a gestalt, like a feeling of
Ooh.
sameness from this filmography, which is has a very cohesive style to it. We could call it almost like a house style, much in the way certain like comic book publishers had a house style back in the day for a consistent feeling that kind of bled across all the different books or movies in this case. Mainly that's due to the fact that a lot of the same creative people are involved in almost all of these movies. Sometimes, chronologically, they'll go and then it'll turn over, and some people will stay, some people will go, and you're gonna get that continuity and things, and that's how things change and they kind of adapt. But there's definitely a continuity of care that goes through these movies, and it shows for I think for the better.
Yeah, I agree with you. Christopher Lee and Peter Cushing starred alongside each other 22 times. How many of those films were Hammer films? Right?
Yeah.
The majority. And if they weren't, they were movies that were aping and trying to come up with like a retro style. Like we're trying to bring back that Hammer feeling in the late 70s.
Like a Hammer adjacent kind of feel to it, right?
Absolutely. So because of that, we wanted to come up with something that would engross us throughout Halloween, right? And we're going to be doing 3 episodes on Hammer. This first episode is going to be, we're going to be talking about the films The Quatermass Experiment, which was Hammer's breakthrough movie that sort of saved the studio from, just like
collapse,
obscurity, collapse. Yeah. Exactly. Trembling Color says, do you guys know about Nigel Neal? We're going to get to that. Quatermass is the first movie we're talking about. After that, we'll talk about the Abominable Snowman.
Yes.
Then we will get into the Curse of Frankenstein and the adaptation of the Sherlock Holmes novel, The Hound of the Baskervilles. Just off the bat, but first of all, I mean, the idea is basically you're not even scratching the surface on Hammer with these 4 movies. These are all very early Hammer films, all of them pre-1960.
Yes.
The next 2 episodes, Ryan will be picking 4 of his favorite films. I will be picking 4 of mine out of the Hammer catalog, and we'll be discussing. And I think through those episodes, we will get a better holistic idea of Hammer and its chronology throughout the mid 70s, where it ultimately basically collapsed. We're talking about the glory days today.
I think
So go ahead.
before we go into the movies, though, specifically, it's kind of important to point out why these movies were successful as as a whole, and what the landscape of movies, but specifically horror movies, was at the time, and what they did differently that made them so important. So, I mean, we're talking about Quatermass was 1954, I believe. Is that correct? So
Is
at
that
that
early?
time, I think
Okay.
so. I have my book here.
Let me consult my book. Do you have your book, Ryan?
I do. I have
I
my
think we both bought
Bible.
the same copy. Absolutely. Look at that. I
Yes, the
bought this
Bible
book
of
because
Hammer.
I wanted to figure it out. And so I bought this book, and it's probably the best available book on the market because there's lots of books on Hammer. Like, I wanted the definitive 500-page tome, right?
Yeah.
But it's sort of difficult to figure out because there are so many unauthorized copies of just guys in their basement going, here's the official Hammer story. Guess I could take that with a grain of salt, but this is an excellent book. It's got
Yes.
a lot of really great behind the scenes images, and it's really spectacular.
It's like it's like a coffee table book, but it's a good coffee table book because it's got
Yeah.
very
Zero
what
fluff.
important information that it's interesting to read. It reads as a narrative. It goes through the history of the studio, and then it breaks down each movie individually, one by one. It gives them, if they're an important movie, it gives them 2 or 3 page spread. If they're kind of like a lesser movie, it gives them at least a 1-page article, and then it'll have little blurbs about important people that were work at the studio, and that includes everyone from screenwriters to directors to production people, and of course the actors, which are legendary in this case.
Yeah.
But so yeah,
and
so
even sometimes just phenomenon about the films or the locales, like Bray Studios, which obviously was the home of Hammer until the mid 60s when they moved to Elstree. Is that correct?
I believe so. And Bray Studios, as I can understand from this book and from some of the commentaries, is literally just a house. It was like a house that they rented or bought, and they converted it into a studio. It's not like a professional movie studio by any means. But anyway, so I was wrong. By Quatermass was 1955 according to this book. So apologies there.
You're worthless.
But I know how dare me.
You are.
1,000 pardons. But you're talking about the mid 1950s here. What's going on in American horror cinema? Can you even say that there is the horror movie exists anymore in America at this point? We've had the classic Universal cycle completely die out at this point. Retroactively, people have included Creature from the Black Lagoon and those films as part of the classic Universal cycle, but they're not really. They're more incorporated into that next phase, which is all the giant bugs, giant monsters, sci-fi creatures, and things like that. So most likely you're going to find a movie like Tarantula or The Mole People or This Island Earth, which is a sci-fi movie. But that's the level of stuff we're dealing with here in America. We're not talking about any kind of gothic horror, no stuff from the 19th century, nothing like that. And of course, it's interesting because what do we start with? We start with the Quatermass Experiment, which is much more in line with that style. And then they put their toe in the water with Frankenstein, which we'll get to, and it's off to the races, after that.
And the interesting thing too is they didn't really ease into the gothic horror thing. They pretty much had the formula mapped out from the bat with Curse of Frankenstein. It wasn't like a subtle transition. I mean, I would say you talked a lot about how the horror film, basically in America, that gothic, supernatural, 19th century rooted horror film was done. And I think the depth now would be a series of movies that we really like, which are the Abbott and Costello films. That basically made a joke out of Boris Karloff and Bela Lugosi, who had, by the way, acted in basically anything for a free lunch, right? Like I just discovered
I know where you're going.
Lugosi meets a ape from a New York or whatever.
Come on, a Brooklyn gorilla. Come on,
a Brooklyn gorilla, yeah. Which is like, what would you call that? It's
It's like a
horrible.
grade F exploitation poverty row film.
I
Yeah,
mean, absolutely poverty, because like the movie Detour is like a poverty row film, but it's excellent. Which is, have you ever seen Detour?
I don't think so. No.
Oh, you'd love it. But that was but like, yeah, Poverty Row sometimes came up with interesting stuff, but this is like Z grade, the red box of 1937, right?
Yeah.
Or 1945. They had literal Jerry Lewis ripoff impersonator people doing like shameful Jerry Lewis ripoffs, along with Bela Lugosi playing a mad scientist, and then there was a guy in a gorilla costume. But I digress.
Yeah. Guerrilla
Where
movies
were we?
were popular. I'm not sure why that was such a big genre. That's a topic for another discussion, but
The
it's
point
something
the
back then
point is
that
it
was,
was over. I mean, Abbott and
thank God.
Costello made
Yeah.
an absolute joke of the Universal horror stars, and it was over. It was on to, I guess, what you could describe as like nuclear fear inspired, like
Yes.
science based. Giant
Yep.
ants, the creature from the Black Lagoon. Yeah, that's a one off.
It's that bridge between the two. That's what I always consider Creature from the Black Lagoon. It's the bridge between the classic kind of humanoid monsters and then this animal like bug monster. It's kind of like it kind of meets the two eras in the middle. That's the way I
Yeah,
always think about it.
you feel like the creature from the Black Lagoon is a monster that could have like a sort of scientific explanation. He's some sort of super
Yes.
evolved, wild biological specimen,
Yeah, it's
right?
like it's like those things, the Lost World, kind of trapped from another time period, and it exists just outside of time because of a isolated ecosystem, and that's why it's still around.
Um, should we kick it off with Quatermass, or should we talk a
Yes.
little bit about like Michael Carreras and James Carreras, the guys who started Hammer?
Yeah. Actually, why don't we do that? It's kind of interesting. The,
Yeah,
the, the history behind the studio. If you want to start with that.
absolutely. I mean, like Hammer was a studio that was established in the late 30s, early 40s by a guy named Michael Carreras, who, from all accounts, was basically just like an incredible showman and entrepreneur. Um, Oftentimes they would come up with a title and a poster before the movie was even made because they just sourced funding from wherever they could get it. Right. Um, the studio was a sort of fledgling operation that was producing, I guess, sort of knockoffs of whatever was popular in Hollywood at the time. Would you agree with that?
Yes.
War movies, sort of B style war films. I recently just learned that their Robin Hood films were actually fairly decent. Um, in the mid 50s to early 60s, their Robin Hood movies were good, but I have not seen those, and the book that we talked about doesn't cover those because it doesn't fit within the purview necessarily. But these were guys that were fledgling, trying, doing everything they could, and they finally struck gold with an adaptation of a BBC television series, a show called The Quatermass Experiment, which was written by Nigel Neal. I mean, as much as I know about Nigel Neal, he sort of seems like the Twilight Zone. I'm talking about,
Rod
what's his
Serling.
name? Rod Serling
Rod
of
Serling.
Britain, right? He wrote this teleplay, The Quatermass Experiment, which it was 6 episodes long, 30 minutes each. Only 2 episodes survived, 4 are missing entirely.
That's
And that
crazy.
was adapted. Yeah, it was adapted into an hour and a half long film by Hammer and was a gigantic hit, released in America as The Creeping Unknown. Now, Ryan, what did you think of the Quatermass Experiment?
So this was my first time watching it.
Same.
I definitely heard about it and seen it listed on all of the lists of Hammer movies and seen it as the first one, but I never, for whatever reason, never saw it. So I will say that I was genuinely shocked when I saw it because it's radically different than almost all of the other output from the studio that I had been used to. Now that being said, I liked it. I thought it was good, but I did not think that it was that great. Like it was
Yeah,
solid, but not spectacular.
I'm with you. I mean, I actually wouldn't be super amped to expend that much time on it because there were certain things I enjoyed about it. The portrayal of Quatermass as this sort of like headstrong Elon Musk style, like entrepreneurial scientist who is just going to keep pushing and pushing. to go to space. The plot of the film essentially is that Quatermass, a wayward, headstrong doctor scientist in England, had sent people into space, and they've come crashing back down into country England, right? And when they emerge from the, well, only one out of the three actually ends up emerging from the spaceship. The rest have evaporated, right?
Yes.
And
Their
one,
outfits are just flat. Their bodies are gone, but the suits are still there. You know,
yeah, right.
like
They
that.
evaporated. One guy comes back, but he's a little bit off. Actually, when I was watching it, I thought a lot about the film Annihilation and the book by Jeff Vandermeer. Did you ever see Annihilation? With Natalie
Which one is
Portman,
that?
2017 to 2018. It was a movie about Oscar Isaac. They're just like this shiny waveform thing appears in like the American South, and
Oh
it's
no,
actually
no, no,
like
no, no. I know what you're talking about, but no, I did not see that one.
you'd like it. It's body horror, right? This is actually the interesting thing I think is that it's one of the first examples of a sort of like body horror idea that I can recall or think of an example of in terms of like obviously Frankenstein is a body horror to a certain extent, but the idea of like science or things outside of our control can like manipulate your body and change it is sort of frightening. It's a very frightening film. It's not an endearing movie. It has not doesn't have like a lot of heart. You know, there's no comic relief. It's very straightforward. I enjoyed it, but I still feel it's like rather perfunctory, and we got a lot of similar things from 1950s sci-fi B movies in America.
Yes, it's I would say it's a little bit more. I would give it a little bit more credit than some of the contemporary '50s American films. In that, I think it's definitely channeling a lot of that. I felt a lot of Val Lewton out of this, like those
Okay.
RKO Val Lewton movies to a certain extent. It's definitely trying to amp up and maximize the suspense element, and then unlike those movies, which most of the time ended up having no real supernatural element to it at all, this one
Right.
actually does show you the alien life form at the end, and has like it actually fulfills its promise. But the suspense, it's like it works and it doesn't work, but most of the time it feels like padding. So I mean, what I would say is the beginning of the movie is excellent. Like it starts off very strong. It gives you this
Yeah.
like otherworldly sense of, so you don't know what's happening. You see these people on a farm. I think it's a guy and a girl making out, and then they hear the earth shaking. They run inside. There's a crash, and they find the rocket ship. And then the scenes where the police and the fire and the ambulances are all rushing in. It's very exciting. It's very intriguing. You don't know what's going on, and especially as they're trying to open the rocket ship, and they have all the fire hoses, and they're concerned about the temperature and what's going to happen, or they can create a vacuum when they open the door, and the heat is going to burn them. You know, it's good. Um,
Yeah.
and then the movie just like slows down to a snail's pace for
They
most of
ran
the
out of money. They had to be in the doctor's office for the rest of the movie.
Yeah, and you could tell they were definitely also trying to ape Frankenstein a lot too, with the scene with the little girl where the monster approaches the little girl. I was expecting him to throw her into the water, but
You talked about Val Lewton, and the thing
yeah,
for me is that when we watch a movie like this about like, oh, the scary guy, he's on the loose in town, right? We've seen it before, and that's not the
yeah,
fault of the films, right? It was the OG, but a guy waking up in a zoo. I saw it in American Werewolf in London.
yeah.
We see it in Cat People,
That
Val
was a
Lewton's Cat
cat
People
people.
film, right? This idea of like this is a human being who's been like, you know, he's in touch with some sort of superior, like crazy biological thing. So therefore he's sort of attracted to the zoo, and all
Yeah,
the animals perceive him not as a person, where when people walk by, they're bored. But when this like strange human with this animalistic thing inside them approaches, the animals take notice and realize that the person is, you know, there's something wrong with him, right?
yeah.
He's
The
a
animals are
predator.
quite afraid here, and they actually
Yeah.
all get, I guess, absorbed, eaten. Not sure how they describe what the Quatermass monster
The
does to
zoo
these
is
things.
closed. Yeah.
Right? Like it's there's a lot of guessing. There's a lot of implication. Like, was it even? I don't know. Was it explicitly clear to you at the end of the movie that the big blob monster thing was the
Was
guy.
him.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was like implied, but like,
Yeah.
because now they're
The
concerned that other things are going to be,
sprouting
procreating
out of
or
him or
sporing or something like that, right?
right. Um, you know, I got it because the last time we see the guy, it's like through they dolly in on him and he's in the leaves and we only see his eyes, but you can tell that they did a lot of like sort of makeup work around his face.
Yeah,
Now, you could have probably done something like a POV shot where his arms are out. You know, you're watching from POV and his arms maybe were like totally deformed, like one's like a lobster claw or something or a
yeah,
tentacle, right? To sort of like ease that transition in more. Because at the end we basically get a giant pile of glob that's hanging out in Westminster Abbey,
yes,
um, which they weren't allowed to film in, so they filmed the exteriors and then they filmed the church inside Bray Studios.
yeah.
But it was
That's very
interesting to
creative.
me.
You saw that, you watched the documentary thing on I think on the disc or the Blu-ray. They show like
No, I didn't.
what was a matte painting and then what was actually film, and it's
Oh,
like,
really?
yeah, it's very interesting. Like half of it was like a glass matte painting or something like that, and then there's just like a little section at the bottom where they actually filmed real people, and it's like it
Really?
looked pretty convincing to me. I mean,
They're good with the mats. And also I'm sort of like hyper tuned in because I'm like on a Brian De Palma grind to the
mhm.
idea of people in a movie watching things on a screen. And there's a
Uh-huh.
lot of that in this movie, which is kind of strange. I don't know if I have a larger
Yes,
thesis around that, but there's a long sequence in the middle where they just watch the video footage, film footage of the spaceship descending into chaos as they hit gamma rays or whatever, some sort of Stanley phenomenon and become weird
I
aliens.
was hoping that that was going to have a little bit of a bigger payoff, or have some kind of more eerie, uncomfortable feeling towards it, and there wasn't much in there. I was kind of shocked that they played it for that long when there was nothing like at the end that was like, wow, ooh, like, did that
No,
just
it,
happen? Like, no, nothing.
no, nothing. They just like there were three guys. They get belted by gamma rays or whatever,
Yeah.
and like two of them fall over, and then the one guy.
I think it's they get attacked by some kind of parasitic life form. Is that
Yeah,
fair to say?
sure, that's probably
Yeah.
right. Like
They
some
get like
sort
an
of like yeah,
infestation. It's like they get infested by an alien life form that somehow gets aboard their ship or is
early alien.
contaminated, and infects the main guy. And it's presumed that that guy, while he's infected, killed the crewmates because he was, I don't know, feeding off them or something.
Well,
You know?
this is big stuff in the 50s, man. I mean, this is
It
big
is. It
stuff.
is.
This is
It's
crazy
groundbreaking.
ideas.
Yeah.
This is like, you know how we talk about AI now and we go, well, what if we do AI? Boy, it could end up bad. Like if you're talking about the space race in the mid 50s, you're like, you don't want to go into fucking space. You
Yeah.
don't know what's out there. Right?
I wouldn't want to go into space even now. Like, forget it.
No way. No way. But like I could see why this movie would have been like tapping into like an anxiety that existed
Yeah.
at that time about space. It's got some interesting ideas. The idea of the film crew filming, by the way, who would film a live show of someone looking at paintings in Westminster Abbey? That would be like a 3 p.m. PBS thing. That wouldn't be like a live deal. But
That was
anyway, the interesting part,
cutting edge prime
yeah,
time programming for the
we're
BBC in
live.
1955. You know.
Yeah, we're live. That would be a little much, I thought. But like the idea of like the live crew watching and there being like a
Yes.
giant alien in the background, and they're like, cut, like go off air for 5 seconds, right? That was cool to me.
And
You ever
I was
seen
gonna say, just like the beginning is quite good, the ending is very good, and it's very you get to see the monster. They don't disappoint. I think it looks good. It's genuinely kind
It
of
does,
unique and interesting looking, and they
and to be a
dispose of it
viewer
in
and
a
be
very
like,
gruesome way. You know?
wait a minute, that the guy who was a guy went to space and he got fucked up by a virus and now he's an octopus.
Yeah,
That's scary.
yeah. I was also going to ask you, what did you think of our lead actor,
I liked him.
Quatermass, Brian Donlevy?
Yeah, he was an American, wasn't he?
He was an American, and did you find that kind of startling when you first started watching the movie? That's like, wait a minute, the main character's an American? Isn't
And
this a
he's like,
British?
"Hey, Mac, listen up."
Yeah,
You
it's
know, and
like,
everyone
what's
else
going
is
on?
like, "Hello, why did you want
Do you
to
know
know
what that's all
I
about,
said?"
though?
No.
Okay, so apparently, this is in order to get it distributed in America. they had to the American distributor would basically say like, hey, you need to like include an American lead actor for the U.S. audience to like have something to grasp and attach onto. So they probably had like a list of like, you know, not so great not that his acting ability is not good. I mean, like, I'm not familiar with Brian Donlevy. Sorry to say.
Yeah.
To the estate of Brian Donlevy, but like I was not familiar with his body of work before this movie. I'd never seen anything, so it's kind of like not the biggest star in the world. He's quite good.
Sure.
He's like kind of like I like what you said. Elon. He's kind of like an Elon Musk. He's like an Elon Musk meets Trump almost kind of personality.
Yeah.
You know, very brash, very aggressive, kind of off-putting, but there's
We
some
gotta do it for
like,
science.
yeah.
But would he be an actor kind of like a Nick Adams? You ever see like the Godzilla film?
Yeah, like a very functional actor, right?
Invasion of the Astro Monster, where he's like a good-looking traditional American actor, couldn't make it in America, so they were like, "Well, this guy looks like a pretty good-looking white guy," and they brought him over to Toho to be the white guy in Godzilla.
Yeah,
right?
Or maybe that'd be like Raymond Burr, you know, if he hadn't
Burr.
gotten Perry Mason and all the other shows after that.
Sure,
but
yeah, he was good. I enjoyed him. And you watched?
Yeah, no, he's good.
Go ahead. Sorry.
No, finish. I'm sorry.
You watched Quatermass 2? There were 3 Quatermass films.
I did.
Quatermass 2, Quatermass, and The Pit.
Yes. Funny enough, I have the Blu-ray for Quatermass and The Pit, which I bought many years ago, and this was when I attempted to first. I knew about Quatermass, and I bought that one, and I wanted to watch it. But of course, it was a Region B Blu-ray or DVD, and I didn't have a Region B player back then, so like I never watched it. So that one I still haven't seen.
You
now
got fucking Region Z now, don't you, dude?
Yeah, I have the multi-region player. You can unlock anything. Yeah. But so Quatermass 2 though, it's better. I think it's better than the first one. Maybe that's a little sacrilegious or heretical, but I think it's a lot more exciting. I think it's a lot more intriguing in terms of what it's what kind of problems it's actually putting up for the for Dr. Quatermass. So, for instance, in that one, it's much more Invasion of the Body Snatchers, almost to a T, and it involves you know, these alien species. I don't know if it's the same alien species or not, or something else, that are landing in meteors, and they are infecting people, and they are slowly taking over their minds, and they're building these like pod cities on the outskirts of town, and they're slowly kind of like terraforming the environment to a certain extent, because they can't survive in an oxygen environment. Sure. or they're adjusting themselves to the environment. And he discovers this, and now he has to try and convince as many people as possible and figure out who's infected and who's not. And he actually, Inspector Lomax, who plays a kind of annoying part in the first movie, he's kind of like a hindrance and kind of more obnoxious, is more of an ally.
He was like the foil. Yeah,
he was the inspector, and he's like, I don't believe in all these things. I only read the Bible. And it's like, okay, but like, you know, there's evidence here of like alien life forms and all this. But Inspector Lomax is a much more sympathetic character in the sequel. He helps out Dr. Quatermass. They're kind of like a team, and it's definitely worth a watch. It's not anything spectacular, but it's a little bit more exciting than the first movie.
I like the idea of Quatermass as a character, as a character that's able to be like sort of like repeated in episodic adventures. As like bring in the really cool, smart scientist who knows what he's talking about, he's sort of an alien. I like that idea. We have a comment here from Trembling Colors. He commented that Neil influenced John Carpenter a lot, especially with Halloween 3, which he originally wrote. He was a co-writer. Didn't know that. Nigel Neal, who wrote the Quatermass Experiment. He wrote all 3 Quatermass adventures, as far as I'm concerned. And I'm pretty sure that Quatermass in the Pit takes place after a nuclear apocalypse.
I don't know.
I thought I heard somewhere. But he also says, Trembling Colors, that he influenced Carpenter's movie Prince of Darkness.
Ooh, I can see that. Yeah.
Yeah, and actually there was a movie I learned about that was a Neil written piece in a great documentary. It's about 3.5 hours long. It's free on Amazon. It's called Woodlands Dark and Days Bewitched. It's a documentary about folk horror. And there's a
Oh
film that
yeah.
Nigel Neal wrote that was called The Stone Tape, and very much like Prince of Darkness, it's about scientists who go to a supposedly haunted cave. I've not seen it. I'm planning to go to a supposedly haunted cave, and they bring all their computer technology and things with them to monitor the ghosts in a scientific way to discover if this is like a scientific phenomenon that has yet to be described. And they're sort of tormented by the spirits of ancient beings or whatever, but through the computer. So, sort of like the Manitou.
Oh please, don't bring that up.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
Do you have anything else on Quatermass?
I think it's interesting that Nigel Neal hated Brian Donlevy and his portrayal of Quatermass. That's one other fun fact from everything that I've seen.
I saw that. Yeah,
kind of like a prickly guy, but I get it. I mean, if you're the writer, you wrote this character, and then they're putting this kind of brash American actor in there that's not just to appease us, us on the other side of the pond. Then, I get it. But
great name, Quatermass.
he was prohibited, I guess, from writing the screenplay for the first movie or something like that. But he did write the screenplay, I believe, for Quatermass 2, as far as I can tell.
Okay.
And
it was a giant hit. Go ahead, please.
We didn't watch X the Unknown, and I haven't seen it yet either. But that was meant to be the second Quatermass movie, but for whatever reason, it didn't go. So they just called it something else.
And Don Levy is not in that, right?
He's not, no.
But he is in Quatermass 2.
He is in Quatermass 2 as Quatermass.
And he was recast.
Yeah, he's not in the pit, no. Which is made in the mid to late 60s. I'm not mistaken.
Right. So I would be interested in watching those on my own, but I don't think that as far as our show is concerned and trying to give viewers the entire scope of the Hammer experience, that returning to Quatermass would be all of that fruitful.
It's one of those things that's like it's a historical, an important historical, not remnant or element, but it exists. Sure. But it has its significance, but it's also insignificant to like what the company's all about. Its significance lies in its what it did, how it propelled them forward. That's basically it.
What would you say? Like, I mean, what would be an example where it's like, hey, if you want to understand this cycle of movies, you do have to watch this movie because it was the first one, but like, then don't worry about it. Like,
I mean, it's really difficult. I mean, I guess
Black Christmas, if you want to understand slasher films, you know what I'm saying? I mean, what would be
like, it'd be like if Marvel Studios made some other weirdo like thing before Iron Man that was like
it would be like, hey, you want to understand the superhero craze of the 2000s? Watch Blade.
I think that's an apt comparison.
Right. Like, yeah, technically it was the first one, but it really
and it's not quite a superhero movie per se. It's more like a horror action movie. But is Blade a superhero? Yes, and also no.
Sure. I think what we were trying to do.
Is this a horror movie? Is this a sci-fi movie? I don't know. You tell me.
Absolutely. Can I take a break to talk to the fans?
Yeah.
We had a few people dipping in and out here. Please feel free to comment in the chat. Also, it'd be great. I just launched a Patreon yesterday. So if you guys want to support me on Patreon, you can do that for $1 or $3 tiers. Grifting, begging for cash. That's what I'm doing. But basically what I did, Ryan, was I started Patreon for $1. You can, feel good in your heart for helping to keep the lights on here at the George Film Journal. And you'll also get every video 1 day early. And if you join for $3, I have about 40 videos from my old YouTube days that I took off YouTube maybe about a year ago, because I didn't feel like they fit with the direction of what I was doing now. And I didn't want someone to watch those and get the impression that that's what the channel was like and then like dip out. But I think there are still some good things there. Ryan, when I started this channel, I just had graduated college like 3 years ago. And I was living in my parents' basement for like 3 months. So on some of those early videos, I'm like whispering because I'm recording them at night in my old childhood closet. I'm not kidding. Now, I touch on some good movies there. Terror Train. I talk about American Werewolf in London, Halloween 2, and then a lot of films that were contemporary to 2017, 2018 at that time, which, holy shit, was that 5 years ago? Wow. Okay. That was not three
Yeah, I was
years
gonna
ago.
say, did you
And
just graduate from?
yeah,
I was like,
no, I didn't.
I'm
But
looking at my.
the times they are changing, brother.
It was
But yeah, way back then.
10
But
for me.
like,
It's 10 for me, man. Ooh.
oh, really? Okay, so well, yeah, but you went to what? Okay, but anyway, you went to smart school, but back when I started, yeah, it was fun, and I think if you guys are interested in this channel, the video reviews are not up to the same like caliber as they are now, but there's still a lot of good information there. And if you like what I do, I guess you can kind of see like an evolution and a growth towards kind of where I'm at now. But I got rid of them off my YouTube channel because I was kind of like, this is not reflective of like what I'm doing anymore. But they're all available there, as well as something that's maybe more interesting. Every guest that I have on my YouTube channel, we talk for probably an hour and a half, and I end up cutting it down to 20 minutes for the guest reviews. But all of the unadulterated audio of hour and a half long conversations is available there too for $3. So help me make this thing a remunerative experience so that I can continue to do it and prove to my the loved ones that the time is well spent. Was that too long of a plug?
No, it's great. Natural salesman, you know.
Oh, is that correct? Okay. Well, we're
Well,
moving on.
Can I plug my video?
Absolutely. Go.
Sure. So I just posted the new review. It's of the
Oh, you did.
a Joan Crawford movie, Johnny Guitar. I've been working on this
Absolutely
for a while.
perfect.
I feel like I almost shot myself in the foot with what I did because I've been starting the last couple with movie clips, and the one I did with X-Ray Eyes was like a great clip. It's the one of him dancing and checking out the girls.
That was a
This one doesn't have quite
great
a
movie.
like any scene like that, so I picked something that was very like emotional at the beginning, and I feel like maybe it's just very boring waiting for that to end to get to the review, and it's people are dipping out. But anyway, I would say wait for it or skip the first 30 seconds and go right to the review. It's a very I think it's a good discussion on the film, which is a very atypical Western that has a lot of interesting kind of ideas that are ahead of its time for a 1950s movie, including the role of men and women in that situation, and gender roles are reversed. It would be maybe if the movie was made today, it would beat you over the head with these concepts. But in this 50s movie, it's very subdued, it's very suggested, and it's quite intriguing. But definitely check it out, Johnny Guitar.
And Trembling Colors here in the chat says that Johnny Guitar review was great. I'm going to watch the movie soon.
Oh, thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Yeah, I'm excited to check that out. Thank you. Perfect. I thought your Man with the X-Ray Eyes video was awesome.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Great job on that.
I'm very
really
proud of
good.
that one. That was a lot of fun.
That was a movie that I was able to check out in college from my college library.
No
the
way.
same day oh man, I had a great weekend. It was the same day I totally ran out of money. You know how when you're in college and you have like a summer job and you like have like, $600 in cash and you take it to college and then by like October it's gone. And so like this was a weekend where I was like, I don't have any money. So I went to the library and I rented a book on AIP and
nice.
right. And
Yeah.
Roger Corman, and I rented that movie, and I had a hell of a Friday night just alone in my dorm. It was awesome. X is a great movie. So, are we ready to move on to the Abominable Snowman? My first question for you on this is: did we fuck up by picking this movie?
A little bit, but also I thought so as I was watching it. But at the same
who
time,
cares?
But at the same time,
Yeah.
I think it's a very important movie to put alongside Quatermass to show the delineation and the distinction. It's like a very strong demarcation line about what was and what became Hammer. So what do the four movies that we're talking about tonight? Two of them are directed by Val Guest, who represents kind of where Hammer started in this new enterprise, this new venture in branching out into horror, and that's Quatermass and Snowman. And then we get to the Terrence Fisher Curse of Frankenstein and Hound of the Baskervilles, and it is night and day. night and day.
Sure.
So I think in that regard, Abominable Snowman is worth talking about because it represents that old-fashioned sensibilities of the Val Lewton style, psychological. This is very much a psychological. I guess you could call it a thriller, but it's like,
You don't see the monster really.
is there a monster? I don't think there really is. Well, I guess they show the claw, right? But then when they show the actual monster, they're just like some abnormally tall people, right?
It was there were some things that I enjoyed about it. Now, if we're gonna give our audience sort of like the entire Hammer immersive,
Yeah, I wouldn't say
experience.
watch this one at all. Like I would.
No, I would say this is one. This is one that's impressive because I like Peter Cushing in it.
Yes.
The set of the sort of Maharishi Dalai Lama fucking Tibetan
monastery or whatever.
Yeah. Monastery in the Alps is spectacular. It's really good. There are just a few things that annoy me. I wish it's so hard. Like, can we not get some foggy breath coming out of some people? You know what I mean? To like let us know that it's cold, right? I'm sorry. Yeah, but like, and by the way, what they're wearing to go out there and hike in the Himalayas is like a rain jacket, and like a hat.
Oh, I didn't even pick up on that. But yeah, that's
dude,
true.
you like freeze your fucking ass off out there. But I like this idea of sort of the science guy and the you know, I guess man of action, sort of like Widow's Peak hairdo American, going after together. Yeah, Forrest Tucker. It was okay.
I was very excited to see this movie just because of him. I'm a big fan
of
him.
Why? Okay, what's you?
F Troop.
What? No.
Have you never seen F Troop? TV
is
show?
It a TV show from the 60s? No.
Yes, of course it is. It's a sitcom set in a I guess post-Civil War fort out west.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he plays Sergeant O'Rourke. He's the sergeant at the camp who's always up to shenanigans.
Yeah, he has that Norman Osborn kind of hair going on. Right? He's got that Widow's Peak, curly Widow's Peak going on, like that Norman Osborn hair. That right?
Yeah, but I like
he
him.
was okay. Yeah, he kind of reminded me of God damn it, who's that? I'll look it up right now. He was a good friend of John Ford, and he was in a bunch of John Wayne films because he liked to drink with those guys. Who am I? I'm thinking of Ward Bond. He reminds me a little bit of Ward Bond.
Ward Bond is in Johnny Guitar.
Oh, well, perfect. That's interesting. I'm happy to hear that. Yeah, I think though, had we thought a little more about it, we would say, and also in addition to Quatermass, you might be interested in the Abominable Snowman. Okay, on to Frankenstein, right?
Well, just before that, the reason I think we're kind of ragging on this movie is it bills itself as a monster movie, but it really is about the monster is in the mind, I guess you could say, right? All of the
it's sort of like the original The Thing, kind of like a group dynamic. Right? I mean,
very much. I thought about that while I was watching it. But
Howard Hawks thing.
About that.
Yeah.
But the problem is up here in terms of our fear overcomes us, and in a stressful situation that they find themselves in, they are ultimately outdone by themselves rather than any external force. And kind of like having that self-discipline of the mind is key to survival. And the people who are kind of weak-willed minds are the first to succumb to that. Now, is there perhaps some kind of external force that may be manipulating them to a certain degree? It's kind of implied that these, I don't know, they almost implied that the Yeti are like a different psychological species of man, like the divergent path of evolution, where they are like a similar but different species, and maybe they have some kind of mental powers. Maybe I'm making that up. I don't remember, but I don't know. It was watchable, but it wasn't very good.
Here's the thing. I fell asleep 3 nights in a row watching this movie, which is fine. That's okay, because it's sort of a cuddly little, they're in the snow. And the one thing they did really well in this film, which I was shocked, was that they filmed insert shots in the French Alps.
Okay.
Right. Which they they sort of cut into the movie, right? So when you have, and by the way, I also thought that the set design of the snowy enclaves when they're walking up the mountain, interspersed with those insert shots of establishing shots of them walking, of like lookalikes, stand-ins walking up the mountains, was done really well. I was shocked that they sent a camera crew to the actual, to actual snowy mountains to film that, to give the movie a sense of scale, which it does have, right?
Yeah.
The only problem is you can't call a movie the fucking Abominable Snowman and then you don't see a giant Yeti monster, right?
Yeah, I was disappointed. I was not expecting. I was
Sorry.
not expecting this at all. Like I was
Even if it
completely.
was a bad gorilla costume, like that's better than nothing, you know?
Yeah. I mean, like you were saying about the sets. I mean, Hammer movies, for how, no matter how bad or disappointing some of them might be, they always look good. And this is a good looking
Absolutely.
movie. It's a good looking
Totally.
movie. They are able to build. They have top notch set design and production design. So in that regards, it's easy on the eyes. It's an interesting kind of historical remnant. I would not recommend this one at all unless you're like a diehard. You've watched everything else. I would.
Is that
I
like
would
your coworker?
please don't watch this one.
Oh, bro.
I thought maybe you
Late
had seen it
night.
before because
So
you were the one who brought it
I had.
up first.
I had seen it. Yeah.
Oh, you
I
had
had.
seen it before. I had not seen this before.
And I liked it because it was unique, right? The
It
thing
is.
about Hammer that I enjoy is that we could have done this series and said we're going to watch all 7 Dracula films, right? I didn't want to do that. I wanted to give everybody a wide shotgun blast of like what Hammer was all about, right?
Yeah.
They had lots of interesting films. Now, what I didn't realize when I recommended it to you is that I didn't realize I'd only seen half of it. And I forgot about that. And I was rewatching it and I was like, oh, I actually had.
You like fall asleep during it or something?
Yeah, I did. I've fallen asleep to this film like 5 times, but that's okay because there are some great movies that I have fallen asleep to many times. North by Northwest, 2001: A Space Odyssey,
Vertigo,
Saturday afternoon, 2 p.m. Let's put it on.
Star Trek: The Motion Picture.
Star Trek: The
I
Motion
don't
Picture.
think I ever made it through that. The first maybe 5 times I watched.
Barry Lyndon. What?
Star Trek: The Motion Picture. I don't think I ever made it through in one sitting or without falling asleep until like the 5th or 6th time watching it. So
that's okay because you can't fall asleep to like a film that's completely awful. You'll have nightmares. Do you know what I'm saying? So you need something that's going to be a nice little chamomile tea.
So discomforting, But
yeah,
this is a very
good.
Yeah.
Would you mind if we took a short break?
Sure.
That'd be okay. We're 2 movies in. We have 2 left. I'm really excited to talk about the last 2. I have a little bit more to say. A little bit more. I mean, have I been lacking? I apologize.
You're really just trying to get past the snowman, just like next.
I know, and I fucked you on this one.
Like,
I'm really sorry.
Bit. There's something there. I mean, there's some stuff worth mentioning, but I think we can.
I think we'll cover Peter Cushing and Christopher Lee in the next 2 movies, but
I think Cushing is awesome. I think Val Guest is a very interesting director, and what he's going for. We're not like it's not my cup of tea for what I'm looking for in these types of movies, but I think it's an interesting take on kind of like where we were in film at that time and what was expected. And I'm trying to put a little bit more of a intellectual kind of psychological spin on this. Maybe people won't buy the giant monster or something like that. And, it does it work? It's questionable, debatable, but it's an interesting kind of spin. And at least it shows he's able to make a different type of movie than Quatermass, which is a very, has a very documentary style. Like
I would call it a TV movie.
I guess he has explicitly stated he wanted to make it feel like a newsreel to a certain extent.
I heard that, but is that because he read a critical review that said it felt like a newsreel, and he was like, "Oh,
perhaps
what I was going for."
He mentions in interviews how he directly he wanted to make it like Panic in the Streets. Have you ever seen that? I think it's a
no
on movie. Yeah, I've seen that a while ago. It's I'm not a huge fan of that one either, to be honest with you. But
got it.
But anyway, it's an interesting. It's a different style. It shows what the studio may have ended up with, and if they hadn't made this radical change towards the Terrence Fisher style, there might not be a Hammer as we know it today.
Absolutely. I'm
Okay,
with you.
I think that's a good place to take a break.
Yeah, we'll be right back, guys. We're gonna take a quick break. We're back. How's it going? I wanted to share this, because it's so true. Uh, being a podcaster and a streamer is not easy. And Ryan, you're muted, so no one can tell that you're laughing at my
Oh,
joke.
sorry. Thank you for informing me of
No,
my
you're good.
stupidity there. Yeah, no, I agree.
It's tough
sometimes it
work.
can be a rather thankless job, and you put in a lot of work for something, and you're like, is anyone even watching this?
Oh, they
Yeah.
are. They are. They do. They might not tune in live, like Trembling Colors, who's a real deal fan. But they watch later. We're gonna get a
You
solid.
have a little bit more. You still have a little bit of a larger following than I do.
You'll catch up.
But
It's really a
oh, one
0 to
second, I can
1,
fix
1 to
that.
100 thing. Go ahead. Um, Ryan's got to scratch his ass. That's why it's so hard to be a streamer and a YouTuber because okay, got it. He's back.
Yeah, sorry
Um,
about that.
so I think we should start with Curse of Frankenstein. Correct?
Yeah, absolutely. This is the big one.
I don't know. Check your mic. Maybe you might be on a different mic line. I can hear a little bit of a noise when you're in.
Oh, it's the fan back here.
It's your Roomba.
No, it's like supplements to the air conditioner here.
You got a storm going on, right?
It's past now, but it was pretty bad earlier. Every night we're getting like almost like feels like hurricane force storms, but it passes after like 20, 30 minutes.
Here in the Midwest, we're getting hurricane force good feelings and just spectacular, like 65-degree days, falling leaves. Really makes you excited for to watch a good old fashioned gothic hammer horror film, which we finally arrived at.
Is
Right?
it still? You still hear the noise in the background or no?
You're good. You're good. You're good to go.
Okay.
You're good. Yeah.
Yeah, like my air is I have the air is good enough to power like for most of the house, but then for certain rooms it's just brutally hot and you have to have some kind of extra.
You're like Blanche Dubois. You just have to be on your fainting couch with your fan. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
Curse of Frankenstein. It's the one, man. I mean, it rocketed them to the absolute top. It was an international super success, despite sort of diverging massively from the Mary Shelley novel. I still think that they do it in a way that works. It's an excellent movie. Your thoughts?
I agree. I feel like they needed to either, go big or go home at this point, right? I mean,
Yeah,
so how do you compete? This is the ultimate question, right? Is that Frankenstein has been in the like
done.
pop culture vernacular since 1931 with a very a memorable, not just memorable, like an iconic performance,
Absolutely
iconic
iconic.
turn by Boris
Todd Bennett.
Karloff and that Jack
Yep.
Pierce makeup. So what do? Now you're not allowed to use any of that. And in fact, they're under pressure and threat of lawsuit from Universal that if you dare even, for slightly imitate anything that we own the copyright for, we're going to sue you into oblivion. And
No
so,
lightning bolts. No
yeah,
flat top head. Yep.
well, because that was all devised by them for the movie. I mean, there's nothing in the novel that describes the monster like that. And
It's
if you want to see,
alive.
yeah, if
Yeah.
you want to see an accurate representation of what the monster probably should have looked like, you can see the awful Kenneth Branagh, Robert De Niro '90s movie. I hate that movie.
Awful.
Sorry, I hate that movie. Well, whatever. We had to watch that in AP English literature class. And
I love that movie.
yeah, I can't stand that
I
movie.
think it's a
I'm sorry.
great adaptation of the novel. I
It's
apologize.
so, well, it's over dramatic, just like the novel,
I
But
like the novel. I love the novel. I love it. I love it. I actually
uh,
brought my copy here. This
did
is
you have
my
to read that for
copy of
school, or
the.
you read it for fun?
I read it for school, but I thought it was
Oh, okay,
awesome.
I
I
couldn't
wasn't
stand
expecting
it.
how much I enjoyed it and how different it was from the idea of what I had in my brain from what Frankenstein was because of what, you know, you buy the little cutout window decal Halloween with the green Frankenstein, and he's very much like a Hulk style character. But the idea that he was this like sort of super intelligent being that wanted revenge on his creator, to me, I thought was incredibly compelling. Now we don't get that here in this movie. We get a very different take that I think also works. But
and the putting the emphasis on the doctor rather than the monster, it's plays a huge role in what makes this movie successful. And it's almost like you don't notice any of the reasons why they're doing all the things they do, but it seems to me like they had very little money to make this movie, but they managed to trick you. They managed to trick you into changing all these things up to focus on certain things that they want you to that they want to focus on because they can
yeah,
do it cheaply. And
yeah,
because the story is so strong, the characters are, like explicitly, they stay to their core, and it's shocking and
yeah,
graphic.
absolutely, it is shocking
It
and graphic.
all bypasses all of your other expectations about what you think you're going to get from a movie like this, and it works really,
It got
really well.
shellacked by the critics because they were like, "This is a horrifying, freakish film," and it really is because Dr. Frankenstein in the Mary Shelley novel is a very much like a sympathetic character, right?
Yes,
Like the idea is it's sort of a fable of like, "Hey, don't get too close to the sun." Frankenstein, aka the modern Prometheus, which is the original title, right?
yes,
Um, but like see how it can bite you in the ass because there's the element that often gets left out of the Frankenstein story of the idea of Frankenstein chasing his creation to the end of the earth to Antarctica. And
yes,
then we are introduced to a captain of a boat who, and by the way, this idea that like British people in the late 1800s really wanted to go to Antarctica, and many of them did, and to brave the wilderness to explore Antarctica is still baffling to me. Um, I don't know what you got out of that one, but like that was very much in the zeitgeist at the time. There's
yeah.
a great book called
Well,
I'll
people
come
want
up
to
with it.
explore, right? If you can be the first one to go, then you get in the history books, right?
But it's like this Elon Musk Mars thing. It's like who the fuck wants to go to Mars? I don't. Like you know what I mean? Like, oh, we'll send a
Yeah,
colony to
and I
Mars. Who
certainly don't
cares? Who
want
gives
an
a shit?
implant in my brain either. That's,
No,
you
no.
know, that's,
Or the chip to be able to pay for your food with your
oh my
hand.
God, no.
Wow.
We should
Yeah,
be.
no, I
I
don't want that
mean,
either.
whatever. That's a whole
Wouldn't that
topic
be
for another story.
easy? Have these people seen movies where you get your eyeball cut out to like get you through the
Yeah.
scanner or the science store? I mean, come on. But yeah, this is very different. But yeah, but the idea of the Arctic Explorer is supposed to like drive home the idea in the audience and the reader that like, hey, when you try to push a scientific breakthrough or like your own ambition to be great too far, it can be very bad. Now, in this one, Dr. Frankenstein is just like he's Robert Oppenheimer, essentially, right?
Oh, that's unfair to Oppenheimer. Come
Depends
on.
on how you look at
Come
it. He's
on,
a
man.
guy that just is
This
like,
guy is a psychopath. This guy
but if
is
you're
a
looking at it from the
psycho.
50s, but why in the 50s did they say, let's just make Dr. Frankenstein an absolute fucking psycho, crazy guy?
Well, it's
A
certainly not what you would
manipulative,
expect.
evil, like scientist.
But if you're doing this to begin with, you have to, number one, be loose of your moral scruples. I mean, even Colin Clive's version of Dr. Frankenstein, he is not like totally off his rocker, but he treads that line between, do you kind of feel bad for him because he did something, he was trying to pursue this this creation, but he went too far and he regrets it to a certain extent. But there's something inside of him that's still like, especially in Bride of Frankenstein, that pushes him to do it further. This
Sure.
one, there is zero empathy, there is zero sympathy, and
No.
it makes for, okay. So I guess it goes to the I guess the thesis of the movie, or the underlying idea is, who is the monster? Who is the monster here?
The
And
monster is Peter Cushing.
yes, obviously, and I think it's very interesting because there's
So
you could say
obviously.
there's two there. Well, that's obvious, but there's two monsters and there's two Frankensteins, two doctors, right? Who
Yes.
created the original monster? Who
Okay.
created who created Dr. Frankenstein? And it
His
is
teacher, Paul.
Paul. So Paul plays the role that we would normally expect for the doctor here. I mean,
He's the
Paul,
Igor.
that's, come on, man. Paul's
They
not
didn't they
Igor,
couldn't do Igor because of Universal. But when
but
you're
Paul is so
making a
much more.
movie, he is absolutely.
Yeah.
But when you're making the reason why they put the Igor character into the Universal film, which by the way,
Whoa.
first of all,
First of all, fake geek girl moment here. In the original Frankenstein, his name is Fritz.
Got it. Was he played by Peter Lorre in the first one, or is that just
It's Dwight Fry, I believe.
when did Peter Lorre play the role?
I don't think Peter Lorre ever
He
played.
never did. Okay, maybe this is like a.
Bela Lugosi played an actual character named Igor in Son of Frankenstein.
Got it. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Fine. I don't know why I thought it was. You know what? There's a Looney Tunes cartoon where they draw someone to look like Peter
Okay,
Lorre.
probably. Yeah. But
anyway,
but that's
the only reason that the Igor character exists in the first place is because, and by the way, if Universal wanted to sue over this, they'd be full of shit, because when Frankenstein came out, the book, in the subsequent 50 years after its publication, there were a lot of theatrical adaptions of Frankenstein because there were not stringent, strong copyright laws back then. So the creation, right? The creation of Igor came from the play, because when you're doing a stage play or a film, like that old Stan Lee adage, well, you got to have someone for him to talk to, which is like the sidekick, right? They can't just have an internal monologue on screen or talk to themselves. So you have to have somebody there. So Paul kind of fulfills that role, but he also is sort of like the moral conscience of Frankenstein, which, by the way, the moral conscience of Frankenstein, the doctor, exists in the book in himself. When the monster comes to him in the book and says, make me a companion, a wife, my bride, he makes a female Frankenstein monster and then decides, no, I can't do that because my creation is so horrible. There can't be more. So he tears up her body, and that's what leads Frankenstein's monster to kill his fiance on their wedding night. But
Paul is also our window into the story. Paul is our stand-in, is the character that we can sympathize with or rationalize with or understand his point of view, because Victor Frankenstein is so far off the rails, totally in the loony bin.
Super evil.
He's evil. He is a first degree murderer, premeditated murderer at this point. Like,
that's what
there is no coming back from this.
He kills his beloved old professor so he can steal his brain. He pushes him downstairs and kills him. And I was like, oh,
that is by far the most shocking and horrifying scene in the movie.
I was like, damn, they're really going for this.
I'll never forget that the first time I saw that.
I couldn't.
Professor, look out!
Oh, look out! Pushes him down the stairs. I couldn't believe it, because you talk about this Paul character who was created for this movie, right?
Yes.
The conscience and the audience surrogate. In the novel, you're supposed to sympathize with Dr. Frankenstein.
Yes.
Like, he's a person who's trying to be great and failing, and it bites him in the ass, right? And this one, Dr. Frankenstein is an unmitigatedly evil, driven, insane person, right?
But because Peter Cushing is playing him,
you like him.
We like him.
Yeah, you do.
Audience, we can't help but not like him because he's so charming. But
he's Boris Karloff, the body snatcher from the Val Lewton movie.
Yes,
right?
He is. Yeah. I mean, there is something just deliciously evil about him that the dark side of your psyche kind of admires or likes.
Can I ask you this question?
You're not supposed to.
What is so appealing about Peter Cushing?
He has some kind of the elegance and the charm that just oozes off of him. There's something so sophisticated, and he's like, even when he's rude and he's acting horrible, he's just using the maid to. But I
couldn't believe that either. Because in the book, he's in love with his cousin, and he's like the love of his life. In this one, he's like, "Oh yeah, baby, I'll get back to you." And then he's like getting it on with the maid. I was like, "Holy shit!" Now, you're right. We talked about this. We touched on this. I don't think we got through to the audience how important this is. Universal continually sent letters like cease and desist. You better not rip off anything from our movie in your adaptation. So they had to go back to the drawing board, rewrite the script, and come up with a Frankenstein film that was completely divorced from the Universal film. So they made a lot of changes. But let's get back to the sexy maid who gets killed in her, her sort of Victoria Holt nightgown, right?
So, I mean, she is threatening the maid. Dr. Frankenstein is having an affair with the maid, even though he's supposed to be married, or he's married now to his cousin Elizabeth. And the maid says, you better marry me because you promised, and we've been having this relationship, and now I'm with child. And that doesn't sit well. And if
he's
you don't marry
anybody.
And if you don't marry me, then I'm going to go to the authorities and tell them what you've been doing up there. And I know stuff. We don't know actually what she does or does not know. And it's believed that I think believe that she doesn't really know what's going on, because if she knew what was going on, she wouldn't have gone in that
I know
room.
you're up there. You're logging into 4chan up there in your attic. I know what you're doing.
Yeah, she knows he's doing something bad, but I don't think she has any idea what she's gonna find when she goes into the room. And then he locks her in there with the monster to be unceremoniously killed.
Yeah, and he's sitting outside going like, "Yeah,"
and he's like, "Yeah,
go.
oh god." But it's Peter Cushing, and he's just so charming,
You rattled off a string of adjectives that perfectly described him: elegant, sophisticated, like charming.
Yeah.
He's great.
Now it's interesting. Do you like him better as the villain or the hero?
That's the thing I love so much about these Hammer films, is that they cycle out Cushing and Lee in opposing roles, right? Do you know what I'm saying? Like you get first of all, Lee as the Frankenstein's monster, who has probably about 15 minutes of screen time.
Yeah, it's very quick
minimal.
in this movie. Yeah, the monster is not the focus of the movie at all. The monster
not at
is
all.
like
Yeah,
a side thing. It's just
the makeup's
part
incredible.
Of the story. Yeah.
There are about 4 different Hammer documentaries that exist on YouTube right now. There's one where Lee talks about his approach to playing the character, and he thought of it like it's a monster who it doesn't have complete control over his body, so your hand might move slower than your arm, right? So you play it like you're jolting around, which I thought was very interesting. And for someone like Lee, who I think is known to modern audiences today as someone with a lot of gravitas because of his voice, right?
Yeah.
Saruman, Count
and the
Dooku,
roles he played,
yeah.
In the modern setting, in these epic fantasy franchises, yeah.
Isn't it amazing that Christopher Lee lived long enough to play Count Dooku in Revenge of the Sith in 2005 after in 1957 playing Frankenstein for Hammer? I mean, like, it's amazing.
Wasn't he also in the Hobbit sequel trilogy?
Yeah, yes, he was.
Which is in like the 2010s, right? Like
the guy is a master. And then I think modern audiences would know Peter Cushing from his role in Rogue One, where he played where he was himself a reanimated corpse, a la Frankenstein.
Yeah.
As a CGI.
He looked good. I didn't think that looked so bad.
It wasn't, but it's kind of like it made me.
Carrie Fisher looked bad in that movie, but
Yeah. Like, would you ever bring back, like, if Arnold Schwarzenegger died, like, bring him back? Well, that's a bad example. They've CGI'd his ass.
Wouldn't you want to see a new? I would love to see a Bela Lugosi movie.
What about Bruce Lee? If they CGI'd Bruce Lee and brought him back, would that be a little much?
But that's, he's just
because I feel like with Rogue One they were like
all the choreography too. It's kind of like that's kind of like what's the point? Like
I feel like with Peter Cushing they were kind of like, hey, look, it's just Peter Cushing. No one's gonna care.
No one's gonna care. Yeah.
Which sucks because Peter Cushing is awesome.
I hope his family at least made something off of it.
His estate or whatever.
His estate. Yeah.
Yeah, but he's excellent. And the Paul question is interesting in the movie too, because Paul is he's a very appealing, likable character. And by the way, the little kid who plays young Peter Cushing.
Yeah. Oh, I loved him.
He was also great. Very good. Yeah, very good.
Oh, he's great. And I love that relationship between him and Paul. And you know what's shocking about Dr. Frankenstein, especially as he's an adult, is that he never gets rid of Paul. You would think the natural course of someone like that is, well, Paul, you have outlived your usefulness. You have nothing left to teach me. Go away. You're fired. But he never tells Paul. He never tells Paul to go away. Even when Paul is scolding him and telling him you're making all of these horrible decisions, you're violating the laws of nature, you're killing people. He never tells Paul, well, why don't you get out of my house and get lost? Go, it's like, no, just go to your room. I'll see you later. It's like,
go hang out in your room, because he has like this. It's like the Hoxian trio, right? Do you know what I'm talking about? Like, you ever see the movie like Angels? Only Angels Have Wings.
Wait, is that the Cary Grant one? No,
it's so good. I love that movie. Yeah,
Only Angels Have. I'm not sure which one I'm thinking of.
Well, it's the greatest example of the idea of the Hoxian trio, which would be Cary Grant, Rita Hayworth.
Oh, it is. Okay,
right. Yeah, and like people describe Star Wars, Han, Luke, and Leia as a Hoxian trio. You know what I mean? you have this sort of like trio of characters with like sort of temperaments that like balance each other out, and like there's
Yeah.
and this is sort of a very similar thing, right? His cousin Paul and Dr. Frankenstein,
Yeah.
right? Um, which
Well,
is a
did you
sort of
sense that
character dynamic that doesn't exist in the other
there's a love
adaptations.
triangle there too, right? I
Of
mean,
course, because
yeah.
Paul's whole modus operandi is to defend his cousin from like her husband's bizarre, crazy behavior.
Wait, but Paul is not Elizabeth's cousin. Elizabeth and
No, he's
Victor are cousins.
Frankenstein's cousin. Yeah,
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 which is
yeah, yeah,
which
yeah.
is weird that
From
he
her
married
cousin.
his
Sorry.
he married his
Yes.
cousin, but
But that's from the book too, and that was not as strange back then.
sure. Okay.
Maybe it was not, super cool, but it was like not totally weird. But yeah, like you have this like new dynamic in a Frankenstein film that didn't exist there before, right?
Yes, I agree. But it's interesting. Paul's role as the conscience is also, he is not a straight arrow to the core by any
No,
means.
he goes along with it for a while when they bring back the dead dog and everything.
But even after that, he kind of
Like
goes along with it too.
he knows Victor murdered the professor.
Yes.
And then he comes back for their wedding day and he's like, well, hello. And he's like, why don't you come up and see what I'm working on?
Yeah.
Well, I brought him back to life again. Oh, what I mean? It's like, it almost defies credulity, but like, I mean, the thing about, I go ahead.
They kind of set it up to be kind of like a father-son dynamic, but then there's also a brother,
Mm-hmm.
and then I don't know, maybe there's implications of something else in that love triangle.
Yeah, Victor.
But I don't know.
Victor's not gay. I mean, he likes to get it on with the maid.
Yeah.
But he's totally uninterested in his wife.
Yes.
Like it's their wedding night. He's
Court,
like,
right?
I got to get back to work, baby.
And that's Hazel Court in that role, correct?
And what do you know about her?
Well, she's in many of also the what do you call them? The Roger Corman, Edgar Allan Poe ones too. She's in.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, she's in I believe Mask of the Red Death, if I'm not mistaken.
Who would you have picked, Hazel Court or the Valerie Gaunt?
No, I like Hazel Court. I think she's quite good in this role.
Well, I mean, come on, if you had to pick, I mean,
or it's too early for isn't in Mask of the Red Death also Jane Asher is in that one, who was in
Jane Asher.
Quatermass.
Mask of the Red Death is so cool. Jane Asher. Okay,
Jane Asher was in Quatermass,
she was the as a little girl. Oh,
as the little girl that he encounters.
When was Mask of the Red Death made? Like 68?
Must 66 maybe, I want to say. Let's see.
And by the way, whoever the ingenue was in Quatermass, the fretting wife of the space pilot, she was the mistress of the American distributor.
Yes, I did see that.
Yeah,
and she was dubbed though as well, right?
I think so. So he was too embarrassed to put her in an American movie because everyone would know kind of what he was up to. So he put her in the British co-production, The Creeping Terror.
Hazel Court was also in The Man Who Could Cheat Death, which is another Hammer pre-60 film. And then she was in The Premature Burial, The Raven, and The Mask of the Red Death.
Mask of the Red Death is badass. I took my second favorite Edgar Allan Poe story behind The Cask of the Amontillado.
I like the movie a lot.
Of what?
The Mask of the Red Death. That's like
it's with Vincent Price. Yeah, it's awesome.
Favorite Poe movie. I actually have the poster.
It's like the most visually striking. It's like so good. Like I love.
I have the poster for that in the other room. It's original. So.
The 1,000 insults of Fortunato I bore as best I could, but until he ventured upon insult, and then I vowed revenge. Anyway, I love that stuff. But and there's another great Frankenstein quote that I have that I wanted to share. But yeah, we can go on. Any other things to say about Frankenstein?
What did you make of the narrative structure of the movie in terms of starting it as doing the entire movie as a flashback and told from Frankenstein's perspective as we are as he's relating this to the priest awaiting his execution? What'd you make of that?
That seemed reasonable to me because that's how the book is told.
But is that a good narrative hook in your opinion?
Not in this movie because the priest had almost no bearing on the story, and like he brings in Paul who like denies that he knows what he's talking about, and so they send Frankenstein to the guillotine. Only I watched till the end credits, and that guillotine rises up, but it never falls.
Oh, because he's back.
because he comes back. And have you seen the sequel?
I've seen many of them. I don't remember which ones I have seen or not have
I
seen because
agree.
it's been a while.
Yeah.
What I remember most about those that is most amusing, and some of them are good and some of them are not so good, but he always calls himself, as he's traveling around Europe, he always calls himself some variation of Frankenstein, and it's quite amusing. So sometimes he's Dr. Frank, sometimes he's Dr. Stein, sometimes he's Dr.
Frankenweenie.
Franken. It's like, it's just rather amusing in that regard, but he's always
Here's a
up to something.
fun quote from the Frankenstein monster in the book. I have love in me the likes of which you can scarcely imagine, and rage the likes of which you would not believe. If I cannot satisfy one, I will indulge the other. And that's sort of an idea of like what the monster is like in the book, right? Whereas in this one, Christopher Lee does an amazing job. So Paul shoots him in the face and kills
Yes.
him, the
It's a
Frankenstein monster.
very striking scene as well. And that
Incredible.
apparently was one of the big ones that they had to fight with these censors about.
Because and Christopher Lee talks about it too. That like that was an actual squib that went off in his eye, and he was like, "Yeah, it hurt my face." Right? They blew this squib up, and yeah, exactly. Like, which is just crazy. The way they treated these guys who are just absolute legends. But
and now
and then
CG, you know,
yeah, it's like the movie is like. I mean, if you were a regular normie back in the 50s, I mean, this is some brutal stuff. And then he
also,
brings back.
We're dumping body parts into pits of acid.
Yes, he takes a whole severed head from one of the donors of the Frankenstein and just drops it into an acid pit.
And so like, callously cutting the head off. Also, it's a lot more. I shouldn't say it's a lot harder than it looks to.
To dissolve a body part in acid.
Cut open a skull, but
I'll take your word for it. But like no, but I think about when he revives the killed Frankenstein monster and he's chained to a wall. And his head is all like shaved and he has like more scars.
He's done like a lobotomy or brain surgery on him. Yeah.
Damn, dude. Like this is brutal. You know, I mean, this is like, I mean, and Christopher Lee is so good.
Yeah.
Would you agree? I mean, he's so good. He's like playing almost like a severely mentally challenged like person is what he's like playing, right?
Well, imagine, I mean, this monster's brain has already been traumatically damaged, you know, before it was inserted. And then now it's been shot in the face. I mean, the brain, the eye goes directly to the brain. So it's been shot in the face. Now he's surgically altered the brain in some way also, in addition to that. So, and then to play the role in a way that is, has to be unique and distinct from the way Karloff played the monster. So
he's not
with the arms outstretched and not friend.
Yeah. He's very much like an incredibly like wounded animal. And you're watching this and you're like, this is pretty intense stuff for 1957. Right.
And also I think it's worth mentioning also the creation scene, which is almost accidental or not emphasized at all in the movie.
Yeah, there's no like big flip of the switch and it's alive. It's like he goes to get Paul to say, "Give me a hand," and
it happens without their knowledge, like almost by accident. He has all the stuff set up, and they're going to harness the power of lightning, but while he leaves the room, it kind of just automatically goes, and it's quite interesting what they do. Instead of they put him in a tank with some kind of liquid that I guess it's conductive of electricity. It makes more sense than anything else you can. Bless you.
Did you hear that, or was that
No, I can see you violently.
Yeah, you can see me suffering. Yeah, I was violently sneezing. But it works because in absence of the Frankenstein rising off the slab, you get this pulling open the door and a dolly in really fast on the monster as he like comes out of his bandages, right?
Yeah, that was a very good shot.
Really effective, very effective.
I mean, that's also very reminiscent, though, in a different way of the first time we see the monster in Frankenstein, the Karloff one. I mean, right? He backs in from the door with his back to the camera, and he turns around, but then they don't zoom in because I don't even think they had the technology to zoom at that time. But then they do the extreme close-up of the face.
Yeah. Well, they don't zoom either here. They have it on a dolly track, which you
Oh,
can tell
sure,
they
sure,
used
sure.
very, very sparingly, right? Like
Yeah,
I don't think they had automatic zoom lenses till the mid 60s,
60s. Yeah,
which is
To Kill a
why when
Mockingbird,
you
right?
watch movies like The Graduate or, like
To Kill a
you,
Mockingbird, I always think of that they get
they have these
super
like,
grainy when they zoom in on the girl's face in the trial.
well, that's like they filmed it in a wide and they realized they wanted a close up. So they superimposed the shot. So it's really
Oh,
grainy
okay.
because they cut in on there's not, right. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But like the automatic zoom lens was a mid 60s thing. So if you watch The Graduate
Uh huh.
from 68, it's just like constant automatic zoom lenses, which by the way, I love the effect of those because they would go stop, sudden
Yeah.
stop. There was no gradual stop. It was like a sudden stop. So I love those and I wish those would come back. And I looked at buying one. Oh my God. An automatic zoom prime lens that'll like
Hmm.
zoom, stop, and automatically focus. That's beyond
How much does
expensive.
that
But
cost?
oh my God, it's like fucking $6,000. But like, it'd be so cool to have like two or three of those in a movie. Like, trying to think of an example from like Tarantino uses them sometimes. I'm trying to think of a good example of when he does. But yeah, automatic zoom lenses were awesome. But yeah, so that dolly move in of like the track. But like to set up a dolly and do that kind of shot takes a lot of time. They didn't have a lot of time.
Mm.
They filmed this movie in like 30 days. Right.
Exactly, and that's what I was saying about the cheapness of it, but not in a bad way. They use it to their advantage. Is that think about how small a scale this movie is, really.
Really. Yeah.
Where's all the setting take place? Well, in that house, in
In a house.
Frankenstein's house. They go out in the woods once or
There's
twice.
a matte painting once of a guy on a horse walking down a road.
There's
Right.
no villagers with pitchforks. There's nothing
Nope.
like that. Not that you need them, but
No.
it's just
It's an
they
expertly
they
written.
made they made use of what they had. They maximized it to its effectiveness, and
Yep.
they kind of make you don't even think about these things unless you're really looking at it and saying, well, what else is there? What's missing here? But I don't think it's
They
needed.
they turned it into a conflict of like three people in a room, right? And a creepy monster upstairs. And the culmination is obviously like this the kidnapping of the wife and Frankenstein trying to shoot the monster and accidentally shooting his
Oh my
wife. And
gosh,
it's like and you're
it's
watching
like,
this
do you
and you're
think he
like,
cared? Do you think he really cared that he shot her?
no, he didn't care. He didn't want to have sex with his wife on their
He
wedding
was
night.
like,
And he's like,
oops.
yeah. I read a great book because I'm a big admirer of the Frankenstein mythology. This is a
Hmm.
book called Frankenstein: The Untold Story by
Oh,
Susan Tyler Hitchcock. Frankenstein is a really interesting cultural phenomenon, and you'll learn a lot about the history of contemporary, like modern day feminism by reading this because Mary Shelley and her family and Percy Bryce Shelley were on the cutting edge of that kind of thing. And it's sort of a lot about turn of the century politics. Have you ever seen the movie Gothic from Ken Russell?
I don't think so. No.
It's a retelling of that famous cabin getaway where um, Lord Byron and Percy Bryce Shelley and Mary Shelley were stranded in a house and they came up with scary stories and it's really well done. So I'm going to be rewatching that because I'm going to be talking about some of Ken Russell's horror movies.
Hmm.
Um,
Okay.
this
When is that from? Approximately what decade?
mid 90s.
Oh, okay.
But you ever seen Ken Russell's The Devils or The
I'm not
Lair of the
familiar
White
with his
Worm?
work, to be honest with you.
Or
Yeah.
I think I, I would
Let me see.
hope that you would enjoy it. The
Let's see.
Devils is an incredible movie, incredible, with a fellow Hammer, um,
Hmm.
alumni, Oliver Reed, who appears in The Curse of the Werewolf.
Oh, he made Tommy.
Yeah, he was in Tommy. He's in Gladiator. Yeah, because Tommy was directed
He
by
directed Tommy.
yeah, he
Ken
did.
Russell.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep. Ken Russell directed Tommy. So, which is a movie I really enjoy as well.
Yeah, I'm not.
And
I've not really
The
explored a lot of this
Devils
guy's
is
films.
so
Gothic.
good.
No,
Oliver Reed.
1986, actually.
What's that? Oh,
Gothic.
Gothic. Oh, really? Oh, I thought it was the okay. Wow. Okay. I thought it
Uh,
was.
Natasha Richardson is in this as Mary Shelley. Okay,
Yeah,
interesting.
and Gabriel Byrne, who I think is an underrated actor, criminally underrated. And then he also made a great movie called The Lair of the White Worm from '88, which
Oh,
is an adaptation of a very obscure
ooh,
Bram Stoker story with a very young Hugh Grant.
okay. Yeah, that
So
looks great. The
it's
really
you'd
scary
love it. I
poster.
would say start with The Lair of the White Worm. The Devils, I think, is a movie that if you were going to watch a movie that is very prescient about our times that we live in, it would be that. And then,
Well,
of
some of
course,
these
his
get a
probably
little
his
salacious here.
what's that? The
I don't know.
Devils?
Some of
Yeah.
these,
Oh yeah. Oh
no,
yeah. The Devils was an X-rated crazy band movie, banned left and right. It's very
Stallone's
hard to find.
Last Dance.
Yeah, Listomania.
Area.
Yeah, Altered States was probably his most mainstream movie. With
Crimes of Passion.
yeah,
Anthony
no,
Perkins is in this. Jeez.
yeah,
Okay.
Altered States. 80. That would be something that like Starlog would have even talked about. Like it was about the idea of like, can you take mushrooms and like go to another dimension and shit, right?
Interesting.
But it's good. But yeah, Tommy and that are probably. Go ahead.
Have you seen some of the sequels? Are you
Not
familiar
yet.
with?
No,
Not yet. Okay, interesting.
no,
I
I
can't
plan
remember
on it.
which ones are like. I was always much more of a Dracula Hammer fan than Frankenstein for whatever reason. I don't know why.
Yeah, and we didn't pick Dracula, and I kind of wish that we would
That we
have.
did instead of Snowman.
Yeah, I do. I'm sorry. I'll take responsibility for that. I'm sorry.
It's a good movie. I don't know if I'd put it on the same level as much as I just said that I prefer Dracula.
No,
To the
Frankenstein's better.
Curse
Yeah,
of Frankenstein. This movie is this is the one I would say go and watch this because this
it's
is great.
better.
This is top
Yeah.
notch.
Absolutely.
Horror of Dracula is a very solid movie. I would put it on the level of the next film we're going to talk about, which is Hound of the Baskervilles. You didn't like Hound of the Baskervilles?
It's like less than the book. It's like a quarter of the book adapted. Whereas
Oh,
this
but
is
come on,
like
it's like they're never going to adapt the whole freaking
no,
Dracula.
I get it. But this one
Yeah.
at least goes in a different direction and like keeps you guessing because like if you know the story, you're not going to guess what happens in this film. Right.
In Frankenstein, you're talking about?
Yeah, Curse of Frankenstein is an awesome movie.
It's totally original. It takes it feels legit though in terms of what they're extrapolating and what they're changing, and it's respectable in that regard. So like you're not like, oh, they changed this from the novel, like how dare you? Or this is not like the Universal movie. And it's like, no, it's totally different and it works. There's nothing wrong with changing something if you're going to make it good and work. It works. It makes sense for the story. Changing something just for the sake of changing it is not a good excuse, and changing something where it totally falls apart, that's a different story. But this,
I love what they did here as a low budget Curse of Frankenstein is like, what can we do to do our Frankenstein film? And it was supposed to be in black and white, and they updated it. They upgraded it to color, and they fast tracked it, and it was a monumental hit, man. I mean,
do you think this movie would be as effective in black and white?
I don't. No,
I don't.
No,
I think the color makes a statement about this is it. This is new. This is unlike anything you've ever seen before.
And you know what? The idea of Frankenstein as I don't know what it was that drove into everyone's head that Frankenstein is green, but like the idea of seeing Frankenstein on screen as he's black and white and he wears a button down black winter coat, and he's got like, his face. It's terrific. It's a great, and Christopher Lee, man. I mean,
well, he looks like a corpse.
So good.
He looks
like a corpse,
which is the way it should be.
I had a tweet where I was like, why has no filmmaker, used the CGI button to make a Frankenstein film where it looks like he's like made of like 5 different people's faces or something? Right.
Because you posted Aaron Eckhart in, was it I, Frankenstein?
Yeah, it's just like pathetic. He's like got like a few
why
like
though? But why? Because
like,
you're gonna get a movie star. Are they gonna want their face disfigured to that degree? No, they want to.
No, they won't. They won't.
They want to be seen.
By the way, I like the Kenneth Branagh version, and I like that era. I like the Francis Ford Coppola Dracula a lot.
I love that movie because that movie is off its rocker.
Love that movie. Love that movie.
Kenneth Branagh Frankenstein is so stuffy and
full
of itself, man. I just couldn't.
Great.
I
love Kenneth Branagh.
Couldn't get it. Well, I like Kenneth Branagh too, and I want to see A Haunting in Venice, but just the Frankenstein is just no thanks. Little much. I
enjoyed it. I had always heard that it was bad, and I said, well, you know what? I like the book Frankenstein. I'll watch it.
It's not bad. Like I don't think it's like it's poorly constructed. I just don't like it. It's not my taste. You know,
I get it.
I
For
can't
me,
stand
for
it.
whatever
Like, I
reason,
can't stand it.
I really
Yeah,
enjoy it.
like it's
But
a respectable film, but I just have no use for it.
can we move on to the Hound of the Baskervilles?
Yes, of course, of course.
Was this a good choice?
Yes, I think so.
Okay. Okay,
I
good.
really
Because
like this. I like this a lot.
me too. Absolutely. I
Yeah.
love it. This is a
Well, I was,
movie.
can I just ask you about you? I saw your rating for Curse of Frankenstein, and you
Yeah.
gave it the same as all the other ones.
I
I'm
give
just
everything
curious.
three stars.
Come
3
on,
stars
man.
is good.
Don't you
3
think
stars is really
Curse of
good.
Frankenstein deserves a little bit more than that? Come on.
Look through my letterbox. The things that have 4 stars, very, 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 very low. Okay. Like Apocalypse Now,
But that doesn't get 5.
nothing gets 5.
Nothing gets 5.
No.
Come on,
The only
man.
films that get 5 are things that I saw when I was 14 years old. Like
Oh,
everything
come
that I
on,
saw when I
man.
was 14, I'm like, oh, right. Nowadays, nothing can hit me like a 5 anymore.
I put like the French Connection as like a 5. You know,
That'd be a 3 for me.
really not a big fan of French Connection.
I love it. It's great. That's
Oh.
why it gets 3 stars.
3.
If you get 2.5 from me, you suck. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's like, how can you put the Manitou at 2.5, and then Chris Frankenstein's 3? It's like
Anything made in the 70s, I like it. Even if I don't.
2.5 for me is like good try. It didn't quite make it.
The Manitou is a good try.
Yeah, exactly. The Manitou is like, how can you
It's like 2 ideas jammed
how
together.
can you not appreciate what they did here? It's like, yeah,
Exactly.
good effort, A for effort.
A
You
good
didn't quite
effort.
make
Yeah.
it to the finish line, but I would watch it again. You know,
The only films I give less than like a 2 star will be things that I feel like are actively like evil. Do you know what I'm saying?
yes, you should see The Nun too.
I've not seen The Nun too. Like things I feel are just like a like detrimental to the society of the planet.
1
Earth.
star.
Yeah, got it.
I should. Can I look up my Twitter review for that?
Do you actually saw that shit?
I saw. Yeah, hold on. I wrote a Twitter mini review. The Nun 2, a movie starring spooky sounds and creaking body parts, with some of the lamest and tamest scares strung together by the search for a magic, glowing religious artifact. Amateurish, doesn't even begin to describe this slick and corporate horror flop. 1 star.
I'm gonna go see it. I can't wait. Because my wife will love that. Lame and tame scares. That's exactly what I need. Like, do you know what I mean? Oh, that
If you
was
want
so
to see
scary.
the only 2 good moments in the film, you can watch the trailer.
The Pope's Exorcist that I saw with Russell Crowe is basically a Marvel movie, right? But like my wife was like, that was scary.
That's also going to go on my. I was actually Pope's Exorcist was going to go on my worst 10 of the year list.
Really?
But then I saw the Nun. Then I saw the Nun too, and I was like,
I wouldn't put it on the worst because I like Russell Crowe.
It was actively hurting me by the end.
I saw it. Like the exorcism scenes in that was so uninspired and just stupid and boring.
There's nothing left to do in an exorcism.
They've done the hey mom, fuck you, I'm evil. Yeah. It's like yeah. Oh, I've seen that. Thank you. Yeah.
Right now for my I'm just sorry to get off.
Listen up, bitch.
I've been trying to work on like getting set up for like a top 10 and a worst 10 of the year. I only have 3 movies that I can find to be on the top 10.
I haven't seen 10 movies this year.
I've seen 23 movies, which is low for me. But I have 6 for worst. On the worst, I have Scream 6, The Pope's Exorcist, The Flash, Meg 2, The Trench, Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning, and The Nun 2.
How about Indiana Jones 5?
No, that doesn't deserve to go on there.
Yeah, it does.
No, it doesn't. It's not that bad. It's totally watchable. I would watch that again.
That's a 2 star for me.
I could totally watch that again.
You could watch that again?
Oh, yeah. I almost went and saw it again in the theater.
Oh, my God.
Come on, man. It is not bad. I wouldn't give it a good. I wouldn't. That's like a 2.5 star. That's like a 2.5 star for me. It's like
Marietta Corsini says Bo is afraid.
I need to see that.
I know. I should see that too.
Yeah. And I want to see that Nicolas Cage
the Wes Anderson,
the Nicolas Cage Dreamwalker thing.
That looks great.
I know, it looks really good.
Yeah, it does. Dream. What is that called? Dream.
I forgot.
Dream Scenario.
And on my
And
top
A24
10,
were
the top movies, I mean, Oppenheimer's going number one at this point. I mean, I
well,
haven't seen it.
Barbie.
I didn't see it. I'll watch it
God
on.
damn it!
I'll
You
watch it
have
when
to.
it's on demand now. But I'm not paying $25 for it. So when it's $4 or $5, I'll get it. But I'm not paying
What
25.
were the superhero films this year?
Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania. Didn't see it. It
I
would
didn't see
probably
that
go on the
either.
worst 10. The Flash going on the worst 10.
Didn't see that. Yeah.
Blue
Guardians
Beetle.
3.
Blue Beetle. It's okay. It's streaming
Got it.
level movie. You
Yeah.
know, not bad, not good, kind of meh.
Doesn't
Guardi-
exist. It
Guardians.
evaporated into the ether.
If it was 2009 or 2010, Blue Beetle would probably be the best superhero movie ever made. But as it extends right now, I forgot all about it. And Guardians 3 I didn't see because I don't see Marvel stuff anymore. Oh, I can't wait to see the Marvels, because that will be something else to add to my worst 10 of the year.
Maybe it'll teach you about being a more equitable man and let the girls. It's time for women. Anyway,
Oh, sorry. Can we just finish as one thing? I put for my top 10 so far, I have Oppenheimer, the Super Mario Brothers movie, and The Covenant so far.
What's The Covenant?
Guy Ritchie, the one about Iraq and the interpreters.
10 years late, brother.
It's very good. It's very relevant. It's very relevant to something that just happened 2 years ago when the U.S. withdrew from Afghanistan, I guess, not Iraq, but
God,
Super Mario Brothers movie.
I was so looking forward to that 51st state. We never got it.
You gotta see the Super Mario Brothers movie though. That was one of the best.
I heard that was okay. I don't know anything about Super Mario Brothers. I never had the game.
Still a great movie. It's still a great. I hate cartoons, but I mean,
you don't hate cartoons.
Modern cartoons, I do. Yeah.
Okay. By the way, can we give a shout out to our boy, Damn Fool Idealistic Crusade?
Oh yes, the guy is awesome.
Tell the audience about this crazy guy.
So I turned you on to this guy, right?
Yeah.
This guy is, like you said, Damn Fool Idealistic Crusader. He is probably one of the most knowledgeable people I've seen online. Like this guy's the real deal. Like he knows
fucking Jesus
everything.
Yeah.
And he'll go on he'll make these videos about obscure movies, like all the really good stuff that comes out from Kino, from Shout, and the Arrow, and I forgot what the other company is. This company that put out that Fu Manchu box set that I just got as well. And he'll just talk about the movies with no script
for days.
For like an hour and a half, he'll just go on, and it's not full of ums and he's just going like
it's like the transfer was bad and the lossless sound quality is just not up to par.
It's very technical. It's very detailed, detail oriented. He knows about all the history of the film. He can tell you about production level, the DVD,
I couldn't believe it.
Like manufacturing quality. Like it's impressive.
It's incredibly impressive.
And he also does novel reviews, like classic novel.
I saw he's like, I read Hardy Boys number 17, and the video is like an hour and a half long.
Yes. Love it.
Where I'd be like, that's pretty good.
The Phantom novels as well, like the pulp character.
Well, it might interest you to know that I reached out to him on YouTube and I was like, could we talk to you? And he said, yeah.
Oh, cool.
So I think for the next stream, I would like to do a video on like the state of home video.
Oh yeah.
And just have him on to just like go. Because like I'm an undiscerning idiot. Like if it's on Blu-ray, it looks pretty good to me. But like he was bitching about stuff I didn't even know. I didn't even know I could bitch about these things, right?
The one that really impressed me was and I sent it to you, and I don't even think
I watched it.
But maybe I didn't send you even the right one, because there's another video where he goes extremely in detail and shows actual evidence of the Superman Fleischer cartoon. Did he have the actual clips?
Yeah, he did have the evidence, which kind of was shocking to me.
No. So there's a different video. There's a different video where he actually, it's like, I don't know, it's like 2.5 hours or something. And he actually goes through and shows clips from the DVD release, which is like really good. I think I actually have this one. And then compares it to the Warner Archive, or no, not the Warner Archive, the Warner Home Video Blu-ray. And I learned something about the distinction between Warner Home Video and Warner Archive. from that.
I didn't. Yeah, like I'm
They
gonna
have
share.
different teams. They have different teams working on these remastering, and the
Oh,
Warner
he
Home
talked
Video
about that.
people.
He's like,
Yeah,
yeah, the Warner home video people suck, and the I'm gonna share it in the chat because somebody's asking.
yeah, yeah. The Warner Home
Courtney,
Video
hi
people, they
Courtney.
just run it through that analyzer or the remastering tool, and they just spit
I
it
had
out.
no idea. This blew my mind. This guy is in the best sense of the word, a maniac, right?
It's
Like,
like, yeah, it's like super nerd in the best way. Like, amazing,
absolutely,
love it. Yeah, and that's
yeah.
how I found out about that Fu Manchu box set, and I'm like, I have to get this.
I found out about the Hammer Robin Hood films through him.
Oh yeah, 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 yeah.
I
I
didn't
totally
think
forgot
Hammer
about that.
made
Yeah,
Robin Hood films because you won't. It's not in the book. You know,
no.
you won't find it. But
What's sad is that a lot of those are limited edition box sets too, and they're out of
right.
print. Like the Fu Manchu's out of print. I bought that secondhand off eBay, and it's only
Well,
region B. So,
I had that problem with. I'm doing a review of Brian De Palma's The Fury, right?
okay,
Which is available on streaming. But Twilight Time in America put it out on a Region A disc, but they only ever made 1,000 copies. That was Twilight Time's MO before they went out of business, right?
maybe if they made more copies and sold them, they would have not
Yeah,
gone out of
but
business.
there was supposed to be an official Blu-ray release from the studio, but they didn't do it because they were like, "Ah, we're gonna lose money on it," so they didn't do it. So they licensed it Twilight Time. In Europe, they licensed it to Arrow, and Arrow put out a
Okay,
great Blu-ray of it with a lot of special features and fun stuff. But it's a Region B, so I had to rip it onto my computer and steal it. Like rip it and right
yeah.
to watch it, which is kind of a pain in the ass. But
Just get a region B player, man. Come on, come on. Just get a,
yeah, I really should. Yeah, I just rip it and I
because
watch it on my
it
computer.
happened to me. I didn't even realize I bought this Karloff Blu-ray. It's like Karloff at Columbia, and it's like the weirdo films you would never want to watch, but they're Karloff movies. But I put it in, and it's like, oh, you must have a Region B player, and I'm like, oh crap. That was where it
Mhm.
started, and then I'm like, okay, well, I need to buy it.
Yeah, I should buy one.
But nice segue because my Hound of the Baskervilles Blu-ray was Region B.
Because it's Arrow,
So,
it's the best edition, right?
yeah,
Absolutely. So I wanted to talk about Hound of the Baskervilles. It
yeah.
was the first Sherlock Holmes adventure in about 7 years since Conan Doyle killed him off.
Is that
So
right?
in the books, Doyle killed him in like 1899 because he was tired of writing about him, right?
Yeah.
And in the annals of like fanboy history, it was the first time ever where there was like a concerted effort of fans that threw a shit about it in real life, right?
Threw a fit,
They
and we're like,
that was it. That was the first time that ever happened, right? Where people were like, "We're bad, bring it back right now," right? It was the first like Spock dies, you die to Nicholas Meyer kind of like letter writing campaign ever, right? So Doyle a few years later goes, "Well, look, this story takes place before he died, so he's still dead,
let's see.
but this is a little story, right?" And the reason why this is like the spooky Sherlock Holmes is because Doyle was planning on writing a spooky novel, and that's what he wanted to do. And then when everyone was beating his ass about Sherlock Holmes, he goes, "Well, I'll just put Sherlock Holmes in it." Right.
I see.
But the thing I wanted to talk to you about is that this movie's really good, right? It's the fourth English language adaptation of The Hound of the Baskervilles
Okay.
ever, right? So there was a British one in the late 20s, there was an American one in the late 30s, and there was another British one in the mid 40s. So this one, and then there was a German one in Nazi Germany in 38. There was an
Really?
Indian adaptation in like 39. Like the adaptions on this book is insane, right? And the TV adaptions are out of control. But this was like there had been a long while that had passed since this had been adapted, and Hammer stepped in, and they gave Peter Cushing the role of Sherlock Holmes, and Christopher Lee the role of the heir to the Baskerville
The
fortune,
Baskerville fortune, yeah.
who is at risk of being eaten by a rabid supernatural beast on the moors outside of their estate, right?
Yes.
I just wanted to ask you, first of all, if you like the film, but why is this such an appealing Sherlock Holmes story? It almost is like the precursor for Scooby Doo, in my opinion. It's like the You know, if Sherlock Holmes is like the myth buster of the time, right? I mean, it's the idea of like, well, the supernatural scary thing is actually not real. It's just Sherlock Holmes, but it's just science or explainable or whatever and fake. But I love this movie. I thought it was just terrific. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I really like this one. And this was probably one of the earlier movies that I saw when I was first getting into the Hammer films to begin with. So
Yeah,
I definitely have
same.
a fond place.
I saw it in high school.
Yes, same. This is like one of
Mhm.
the earliest ones. This and Horror of Dracula and The Mummy are like the ones that I always think of and go back to, like at the beginning. I
Yeah,
think the reason it's so appealing is uh, as a Sherlock, as of all the Sherlock Holmes stories to choose from and to do, and why they only do this one, and why the story. I think because it naturally emphasizes the horrific elements, and there's the air of supernatural. There's the hint we're dabbling and we're playing with it, even though it's probably not going to be real, and it, of course, is not. It it has that veneer that feels like we're in the same world as
still spooky.
our other Hammer movies. You know,
Yep,
it has that authenticity to it.
it's got the
Um,
creepy old house,
yes, the creepy old
which
house.
is a step
There's
up
people
from
being
and more effective than the Frankenstein house.
there's
Because I
people
feel
being
like sometimes with
eviscerated with knives. Yeah. Sorry,
the
go ahead.
early Hammers, they're a little overlit maybe to
Hmm.
get the pure gothic sensation. But in this, I think they kind of hit a good balance there. That you can see some darks. There are some day for night problems in the movie, I would say, for sure. But go ahead, I interrupted you.
No, no, no. I was
Please.
just gonna say, in addition to the horror elements that really emphasize it and make it, besides that, the setting like you mentioned, but also the setting of the moors. That's also a very spooky, and especially the moors at night, that's a horrific location that adds
Yeah.
to the atmosphere. Also, we have people being murdered with like
Sucked into a
ceremonial
bog,
daggers, and we see bloody knives dropping. um,
escaped murderers.
Escape murderers on the loose in the moors. We have also just even the stupid things like the guy with the webbed hands and stuff like that. It's just kind of like
Yeah.
weird. It
Yeah.
adds,
The green light.
tarantulas. Yeah, we have tarantulas on the loose. We have all these weird concepts that you don't normally expect from a mystery, like certainly a Sherlock Holmes mystery. So I like that. Plus, you have this demonic dog that's on the loose.
I listened to the audiobook for the past week, and it talks about like how there's these great moments when Sherlock and Holmes, when Watson and Holmes are in the little grotto there, where the ceremonial murder of the old Baskerville took place that supposedly endowed the curse upon the family. When he, out of rage, murders the kidnapped girl of the tenant farmer that he
Yeah,
had kidnapped during one of his like bacchanalian parties, right?
yeah,
Which ultimately led to like the curse, right? There's like a green mist. There's a green light on Sherlock and Watson, and that is actually mentioned in the movie as being sort of like this supernatural element of that area of the bog of like this green light. And there's a great line from Watson because the book is very interesting in that Sherlock Holmes is at the beginning, but he's missing for much of the middle portion of the story. And in the book, it's all just letters from Watson recounting what happened to Holmes because
mm,
Holmes asked him to keep detailed records of what he saw, right? And he says about the howl of the dogs on the moors. He goes, I know it's very, unscientific and superficial of me to be frightened by this. But he goes, but it's one thing to laugh about the legend of the hellhound when you're in the comfort home of London. But when you're there at nights, alone under the moon, it's something else. And he
yeah,
goes, I know you'd be ashamed of me, but please understand, like, this is how it is. Right.
yeah. No, for sure. It's
Yeah.
it's spooky. It's creepy. I like what you said about the Scooby Doo kind of reference. I never thought about it
Sure.
like that, but it certainly, especially with the mask on the dog, that's definitely they unmask the dog at the end. The dog has like a prosthetic mask
A
on it
fake
too.
mask, which even
Yeah,
in the story is kind of stupid.
but it's
But
it's kind of funny. I mean,
at least in the story, though, it's driven home a little more because they see the dog like twice. throughout the story, and it looks like a crazy wild hellhound. In the movie, they don't really do that. It's like at the end the dog shows up,
Yeah.
and you're like, well, that dog has a mask on it, you know. Um, Same with there's a lot of points in the story that the movie just kind of glosses over too fast to where they don't really hit. Like the escape murderer subplot
Mm-hmm.
is like a really good red herring. Like the priest, the priest is introduced and he's like a bad red herring because you're like, this is just like they're trying to give me someone that I have to suspect of the murder here, right? And it
Yeah.
doesn't, it falls flat. But the idea of there being a light in the upper window of the house that is
Mm-hmm.
corresponding to one out on the moors, like that's a big thing in the book that
Yeah.
you like are like,
It's
what
not
is that?
emphasized at all in the movie.
Not at all. And like it doesn't have the same effect too as it does in the book, where you discover that it's a big reveal of like who the murderer, you know, why he's there.
Yeah.
Right. Which is that his sister is the housekeeper of the Baskerville house. Right.
Did you also find it strange that Holmes was like, "Oh yes, I had a nice, lovely chat with the murderer out in the moors. He told me he was your sister. You were his sister, and oh, I knew about all these things."
Yeah.
It's like, oh,
Or the
okay,
part in the movie too, where like,
like what?
well, we get an interesting. I mean, they did their due diligence because in the scene with the tarantula at the beginning of the film, where Christopher Lee has a tarantula, we get
Yeah.
a close up of his suit, so we see that it's a tan and dark forest green houndstooth suit, which, by the way, is beautiful. I would love to have something like that, but like beautiful suit. So then, when they see the dead guy wearing it, they just assume it's him. Even Holmes, and he's like, "Oh my god, he's dead." It's like, how you wouldn't
Yeah, I
verify
wouldn't
that? Like,
examine him.
come
Just
on,
to look.
like that Holmes could be duped by that is like a little too much.
Yeah.
But the more important part of it is that, and they do an extended sequence, Hammer style, like reveling in the depravity of the ancient ancestor to the Baskervilles,
Yeah.
where he's just like this drunken maniac. And I love that dolly in on the house, and then the
Mhm.
guy gets thrown through the
Thrown
plate
through
glass window.
Yeah.
And he's just like a horrible bastard, and you're watching it, and he's like going to go up and rape this girl, and they're beating up her dad in the fireplace, you know, in the
They're
living room,
almost
and then
they're holding him over the fireplace, like to
god damn,
roast
you're
him.
like, damn, like this is like
Yeah.
a
These are
lot
evil,
of this,
evil guys.
this guy's a
Evil
bad dude.
people.
But you know, I think that the Christopher Lee character is fairly sympathetic.
Mhm.
He's a little
Yeah.
bit cruel to Holmes and Watson when he thinks that they're his valets, right?
Yeah.
And he's like, "Where's my missing boot?" Which is a clue, right? But overall, you like him, and that in the book it makes more sense about this idea of like you cannot be judged and revenge cannot be taken on you for who you're related to, which
Yes.
is driven home by the housemaid and her brother, right?
Yeah.
Right.
The
Well,
sins
she's
of the
related
father, right?
exactly right, and that's not exactly driven home in the movie. It's so
No.
fast it glosses over a lot of the ideas.
The movie is meant to just exacerbate or emphasize the horrific elements and drive that home. It's not really interested in any more grandiose ideas or, thoughts on any of that. Unfortunately, it's still an effective movie because it works on that level, but it doesn't quite hit home those remarks, like you're saying.
But
Unfortunately,
what it gives you is that Hammer feeling, that cozy gothic horror
yes.
feeling of that house and the moors, which I think is unfortunately really severed in your mind when they cut to Days for Night when they're walking through the moors.
Mm.
And you're like, stop doing that. You know, it's like it jolts you out of the movie.
Also, I think it's interesting. This is probably one of the few times where we see Christopher Lee as a truly sympathetic, or I wouldn't call him heroic because he's not
No,
really, but he
no.
is more of a good guy. And he, unlike Cushing, who will play hero and villain, is he a good guy in that one? I
And The
haven't seen.
Devil Rides Out, Christopher Lee is the hero.
Okay, I haven't seen that one, but he's like
Oh, watch
he
it.
always makes me think of Lugosi. Lugosi usually plays the villain in every movie. He is
Right.
rarely the hero, and when he is the hero, he's usually not quite such a good guy either.
Sure.
Whereas Karloff traversed the line like Cushing, hero villain, depending on the picture. Lugosi was usually the villain.
Yes.
So
And yeah, Lee has I wouldn't say that Henry Baskerville is like the most exciting role. He's kind of just like a MacGuffin.
he's a stiff too. Like he's just
Yeah.
just
He's good and he has gravitas. And you know, the part of Watson, okay.
it's a
It's hard
thankless
to
role
cast
too. Yeah.
Watson, right? I mean, it's hard to cast Watson because Watson has to be compelling but never overshadow Holmes.
Yeah.
Right.
He gets a lot to do here though. I mean,
Yeah, he does.
And I forgot about that Holmes is missing for quite a bit of the movie.
Good chunk. Yeah. Which is why you need to have a compelling Watson style character.
Yes.
In this particular story only. Right.
What did you think of Peter Cushing though? We haven't really talked about him as Holmes.
I thought he was great.
Yeah.
And he was so good the BBC hired him to play Holmes in a television series in the late 60s.
But that goes back to my question from earlier is do you prefer him as the hero or the villain?
Cushing?
Yeah.
He's so good as Holmes in this. When he comes back and he like reveals himself and he's wearing that little like black coat. Now when they have him wearing the little typical Sherlock Holmes little hat with the thing, I'm like, don't do that. Have him just wear like black, like when he first shows up. That's like way more effective. I don't need him to have the little fucking Sherlock Holmes hat, right? But no, he's terrific.
He is.
When he comes back, you're so pumped. You're like, yeah, let's go.
I just really like him
Gandalf.
as the villain, though. There's something about
Cushing.
That. Yeah,
but he's so good as Holmes. He's great. He's great.
He is. But I like that kind of that dark side. You know.
Could Christopher Lee have played Holmes?
No,
I agree.
There's something
he's too masculine.
It just wouldn't work. He's not. He has a different
Holmes is not
a different persona.
Not,
like it's just. There's there's a playful sense to Cushing in that role, you know?
Too much testosterone in Lee to play Holmes. Holmes is like a sort of sexless guy.
Just like Cushing couldn't play Dracula.
God, no.
No. You know?
Because Dracula is a sexual being.
Sexual animal, right? You know?
And what is Baskerville in this? I mean, he has that relationship with the town's girl, right?
Yeah.
And you know he's like dating below his, Baskerville stature, but it's like I gotta do this.
Yeah.
But I love Lee's best part of his performance is his utter confusion when she confronts him with like this sort of like the revenge plot. He's like, I thought I was just gonna score in this bog, and now I'm getting this like diatribe against me, right?
But yeah, I like the movie a lot.
Okay, yeah.
So I guess
it was good.
Yeah. To kind of put a cap on all of this. So I meant to ask you this at the beginning. Is like when did you first start seeing these movies?
I have a DVD that I bought. Remember when TCM used to put out those like 4 film DVD collections? I bought the Hammer horror of those.
Okay,
and I remember watching. I've got it. It's Curse of Dracula. Sorry, Curse of Frankenstein, the original Dracula.
Yeah.
Yep. Dracula has risen from the grave, and Dracula must be destroyed, or Frankenstein must be destroyed.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah. So I watched those, and then I was gonna bring these up, but like, I sort of when I first watched those, I was like, okay, I was very young, I didn't really get it. And then there was a moment probably 4 or 5 years ago where I said to myself, I should figure out what this Hammer thing is all about. Right. And what was very helpful in that was like the Shout Factory releases of the Hammer films. So I have The Devil Rides Out, which I watched and I was like, what? This is possibly top 5 Hammer of all time ever. It's terrific.
Really?
So good. Yeah. Curse of the Werewolf with Oliver Reed. I watched The Mummy's Shroud, Captain Kronos Vampire Hunter, which is really like a very like Errol Flynn throwback kind of thing. Rasputin the Mad Monk, which I want to include because it's sort of an Abominable Snowman style thing of like a diversion off of the regular path. The Legend of the Seven Golden Vampires, which is the Shaw Brothers collaboration that Hammer did towards the end when Michael Correas took over. The Scars of Dracula, which is widely considered to be one of the worst Dracula sequels. but
That's not so
it's got a
bad.
great. It's not. It's not.
That's
It's
not
really
so
not.
bad.
Great set design, and so
What I don't know if you're gonna pick this one or not, but are Curse of the Werewolf? Are you a big fan
no,
of that
I
one?
think I'm gonna pick the Stranglers of Bombay,
Ooh, okay.
which is one of the 3 movies in popular consciousness that features the Tuggy cult, along with Gunga Din and Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. And I had to buy that Region B from Arrow. What's the you'll see it. Indicator.
What was the name of the movie again?
The Stranglers of Bombay. Yeah. I'm gonna
Oh, it's
do
not
a
even listed as a horror movie. It's on the for the great Wikipedia reference. You know,
yeah.
okay, interesting.
I'm gonna do Stranglers of Bombay. I think I'm gonna do Legend of the Seven Golden Vampires because I like the Shaw Brothers crossover idea. And then
Okay,
I'm gonna do definitely The Devil Rides Out, and the 4th one is up in the air. I'm gonna try to keep thinking. I think I want to do Captain Kronos Vampire Hunter,
okay.
but did I say that already?
That'll be a very interesting discussion. I sort of told you mine before, but I
Yeah.
settled now. I definitely The Shadow of the Cat is one of my all-time favorites. I love this movie so much
Okay.
about the cat. The black cat is the witness to murder
Oh
of its
yeah.
owner, and now it is seeking revenge on the people who were responsible. So that's a great movie. I love that one. It's very tongue in
Mhm.
cheek. I'm a big fan of the one of the Dracula sequels. It's called Taste the Blood of Dracula. I think it's not the best, but it is one of my favorites. I think the other one I'm going to pick is She, which is
Oh, that'd be a great one. Yeah.
yeah, the Phoenix
With Raquel
with
Welch. Who's in that?
Ursula
Ursula
Andress.
Andress.
Yeah,
Got it.
and then I think I'm not 100% sold on the 4th one, but I'm leaning towards maybe picking like a bona fide classic. So I was thinking of The Mummy because I'm a big fan of that
Sure.
one. But
Yeah.
and it's important. It's a solid, like really A-list movie. So unless I think of something else that's quite good, I'll probably pick that one.
Got it. Because I mean, I would love to watch like Dracula AD
Oh
1972 or
yeah,
whatever.
it's
Like I mean, I know that because when you read about so I'm listening to an audiobook right now that I would recommend you guys all download and listen to on Audible if you were into it. But like it's a book by Lincoln, Nebraska professor Wheeler Winston Dixon called The History of Horror. And it is like a speed run through the history of horror movies. And it's actually just a really good refresher and just kind of a fun listen. He will just like blow through like every horror movie ever, but like stop and pause on certain things. And he devotes probably about 45 minutes of the book to Hammer exclusively. And it's pretty good. If you just want something to listen to while you're hanging out, I would highly recommend that.
interesting.
Yeah, so it's kind of been my companion, but I wish there was a more because there are lots of stuff like I think Scars of the second Dracula film and the Lizard and Rasputin the Mad Monk were all filmed in like the exact same sets, just like repainted. So
Oh,
there's lots of really
probably.
great sort of Hammer stories.
And
But
for reuse props and sets, apparently for Rocky Horror Picture Show, they used a lot of Hammer sets and props in that,
great.
including the chamber, the regeneration creation chamber. I'm pretty sure. I might be mistaken on that, but from what I
Okay.
the creation chamber that Tim
I've
Curry
never seen Rocky
builds
Horror
his.
Picture Show.
You've never seen it?
No, I never saw it.
Oh man, see, that's on. Oh, you got my list of potential topics, right?
Should do horror musicals. Have you ever seen The Phantom of the Paradise?
No, no.
Oh, you should see it. Yeah.
But I was thinking for there's weird 70s 80s musicals that are like what like Xanadu
Yeah,
or the
I know.
Jazz Singer
You're right. Yeah,
that
the
are like
apple.
yeah
Yeah,
Rocky Horror, you know.
absolutely.
But anyway,
No, but I think this was a good kickoff to Hammer. I think I would have skipped the Quatermass and Abominable
Snowman,
because
yeah.
we had so much more to talk about when it came to Frankenstein and Baskervilles, right?
Yeah,
Because
but
that's what Hammer really is. But go ahead. Yeah.
You need that historical context though, because I
You need
think
to eat your
you get
vegetables.
a little bit more. I certainly felt a little bit more appreciative going back and watching the Frankenstein and Baskerville after watching the other ones. It was like,
They just
hmm,
feel like, okay, this is where they went. They took a big step. They
yeah, it's a
made the
big
right
step
choice.
forward. You know,
Yeah.
they're important movies. They're not bad. They're not bad, but you know, those you could say, and I hate using this term, but those you could say are dated compared to the other ones, which I think are
Yeah.
timeless.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Entertaining. Anything else
yeah,
to say on Hamber before we this is really a teaser. I mean, the next 2 episodes I feel like are going to be heavy
yeah.
hitters.
We just have to decide which set we're doing next,
You're
and
next.
okay, so you have to figure out how to get all
So
those,
give
and then
me
I'll have to
I'll
figure out.
get them. I'll figure out a way. So give me your 4 and then I'll give you my 4 and
Yeah,
we'll make
I
the
think
move.
that'll
'Cause
be good. Yeah, because it's different. You definitely have a specific a feel of what you are looking at in those films. The ones you
so do
picked are
you.
very. I would not have picked those movies.
The only one I know for sure is Devil Rides Out, which is
Okay,
maybe the best
those feel
movie ever
much
made.
later, and so it's good because we get a spectrum of different aesthetics and tastes because looking for
Totally.
something different. You know.
But always very comforting. And then Peter Cushing and Christopher Lee are not far behind. I mean, they're there with you, guiding you along on this tour.
Yeah,
So
and they'll show up in all these bunch of these movies too.
there are boys till Halloween, man. I mean, those guys are the best. And you know what? It was really cool for me to learn like what great friends they were in real life.
Yeah, unlike
You know that?
Karloff Lugosi, that
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. These guys were guys who were really, really tight. I mean, they were real friends. I read something here on his death. And this is a quote from Christopher Lee after Cushing passed away. He said, I don't want to sound too gloomy, but at some point in your lives, every one of you will notice that you have in your life one person, one friend whom you love and care for very much. That person is so close to you that you are able to share some things only with him. For example, you can call that friend, and from the very first maniacal laugh or some other joke, you will know who is at the other end of that line. We used to do that so often. And when that person is gone, there will be nothing like it in your life again.
wow.
So they were real tight pals, man. I mean, they went through the ringer together and they were boys.
It's nice because
So
they realized, I mean, maybe I don't know if they were friends before or they became friends during this or whatever, but they realized that they
sure.
complemented each other very well.
They did.
And no one tried to steal the limelight from the other. In fact,
Right.
they often traded top billing and starring
Yep.
movie to movie, and they would co-star together. One would be the
Yep.
lead, one would be the secondary, and vice versa. And some would star on their own in certain movies, and the other in ones without the other. And that's the way to do it. It's not there's no shortage. There's no everyone can do well. You know, we don't have to kill each other to I
Especially
don't
I
know.
think that's probably the case when you're like in the mire of like, hey, we're hammers A players, you
Yeah,
know.
exactly.
I mean, that's cool.
I guess the one
But
last thing I just say is,
yeah, of course.
do you have a preference for these or the Universal Monsters series? Which do you prefer? For me, it's easy. I'm a Universal Monsters Classics guy, like to the end, to the bitter end, man.
I know
Like
you are.
I
I
love
know.
that stuff. Like
That's why you're a DC guy, because you like it when people are on top
I
and
mean,
have a shitload of
I
money.
can watch that stuff morning, noon, and night. I would like if I could sleep at the monster horror makeup show at Universal Orlando when
Well,
the horror
I'll tell
monsters
you
got
this.
big.
I gave
I
you
would
the
live there.
option. I said, hey, we could do a 3-part Halloween. You want to do Universal? You want to do Hammer? And you
But
picked
it's
Hammer.
like it's I want to just I like these too, but like as my personal preference, I love those movies, those Universal movies.
When are you going to do your Universal movie video?
I don't know, probably not doing one this year. There's so
Why?
much. I have so many other. I'm working on. I don't know what I'm doing next. I
I'm
have
with you, dude.
I have two things I'm working. I think I'm going to do a Hanna Barbera movie review next
Oh,
to get
sweet.
back to that. I think I'm leaning towards Scooby-Doo and the Reluctant Werewolf.
Oh, okay. How about Zombie Island, dude? That's the shit.
Yeah, but I want to do this. I want to get back. I initially started over 10 years ago trying to do the Hanna-Barbera Superstars 10, which are a series of TV films. And I did Justice
Okay.
League the Flintstones. And then I did Yogi's Great Escape, which is horrible. And then, oh my God, try and watch that movie, man. It's so bad. And people roast me in the comments on that video. They're like, how dare you insult my childhood?
Hey,
Like,
fuck you. Yogi's Great Escape is awesome.
Yogi's Great Escape is terrible. It's
Oh,
a
you know what was
horrible
really
movie.
good?
I
You know
hated
what
it as
was
a
really
child. I
good?
hated it as a child, man. I couldn't stand
Did you ever see the movie Pooh's Grand Adventure?
No.
What the
Pooh's Grand
fuck?
Adventure?
Yeah, Pooh. Winnie the
Like
Pooh.
Winnie the Pooh?
Yeah, it was really good.
No. But we're
Oh, it
gonna
was
do
so
that.
good.
But we're gonna do the Disney in the 70s, right?
Yeah, we are.
Okay, and we have to do Winnie the Pooh for that. That's the only
It's in
one
the
I'm not
90s.
looking forward to watching. Ugh.
Oh, okay. You make the list up for that. I'll watch it.
Yeah, there's only 4, so
They only made 4 movies in the 70s.
yeah.
You're shitting me.
No,
Really?
for animated films, yeah. It would
I
take
know
a
it was
long
in a
time.
bad state under Roy Disney because I listened to that. I listened to that book about how Katzenberger took over Disney in like the 80s and stuff, and like turned it
Oh yeah,
around.
and he gutted the Black Cauldron. That's
Right.
yeah.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, it's a different. It's the Dark Ages. The Dark Ages for Disney.
No, dude. Pooh's Grand Adventure was so good. That movie scared the shit out of me when I was a kid. Like it was about Pooh going on an adventure.
It's not the Heffalump movie, is it? Is that what you're talking about?
No,
Okay.
it's really good. It's like
Okay.
it was scary.
I have
It was
no
like
idea.
Pooh went on
I have
like a
no idea.
scary adventure.
Not like the Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey, which is the
No.
slasher movie. Okay.
No. What happened is that like in the movie, I'm sorry, but like I'm just gonna keep going. Like what happened in the movie is that Christopher Robin
Okay.
sent them a letter that said, "Pooh, I'm going to be gone. I'm going to school," right? And because none of them can read, Owl reads it for him, and he goes, "Oh, Christopher Robin said he's going to Skull," right? And then he's like, "That's a scary, horrible place." And then like Pooh and everyone goes on an adventure to all these like horribly scary places that are like horror movie places. And I'm not fucking with you. I can't believe you never heard of this.
I don't remember this.
Oh my god,
This
dude, it's
came
really
out
good.
in 1997.
Yeah, this is
I
really
don't
good.
remember if I had this or not. It
Dude, we
doesn't
had
sound
this movie as
familiar.
kids and like fucking loved it. It was so good.
The only ones I really remember are the 70s movie, which I remember when that came out on video. It hadn't. I don't know why it got that one later, but that and the TV show, the cartoon, which was shown.
Yeah.
The New Adventure show,
Yeah.
which I liked as a child. But I don't know. Just on that note, would you want to do a second part, doing the non-Disney as the second part of the animation one? But
I get a pick though that time.
Yeah, the Bakshi stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
The only one I would want to put in that is not from him is the Hanna-Barbera Charlotte's Web, which came out in the 70s. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. Just because it's Hanna-Barbera. Yeah.
Okay. I'm an incredibly like seasonality based guy.
We can put it off till
we gotta film noir for November, December, right?
Yeah. Well, December. We're not going to do Christmas stuff.
Oh yeah, we can. But how many good Christmas movies are there? None.
There's a lot of vintage ones.
Okay. Well, we could watch Christmas in Connecticut.
Yeah, I was going to say Christmas in Connecticut is the best.
Miracle 34th Street. That's the best one. That's the best.
Shop Around the Corner.
What's the Robert Mitchum Christmas film?
I'm not sure.
It's not great. And Robert Mitchum has no business being in a Christmas movie.
And then there's plenty different adaptations of A Christmas Carol, of course.
Muppet being the best.
Muppets Christmas Carol. Yeah. I'd like to do Muppets one day. That would be fun.
That would be. We're no angels, Courtney says. I don't know what that is. That's
I don't know what that is either. But yeah, I think Scooby-Doo and the Reluctant Werewolf.
Die Hard is a Christmas movie.
Yeah, Gremlins. Batman Returns.
Shazam.
Shazam's a Christmas movie.
Oh, really? Mm-hmm. Iron Man 3.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, Iron Man 3. Great movie.
Lethal Weapon.
Yeah. Lethal Weapon.
Any cringe lord dumbass who's like, "Is Die Hard is my favorite Christmas movie."
Oh god, that was
Got no
like
time for
cool,
that
like
shit.
15 years ago to say that,
No
but
shit. People still do it.
yeah, it's okay. You can identify those people. Pay no
Round
attention.
them up and round them up.
Pay no attention.
Yeah.
No.
Okay. Courtney says Christmas movie with being about Christmas.
Bogey and
Wow.
Peter Ustinov are in it. Okay.
Peter
Ooh,
Ustinov.
okay. Well, we have to find that one. Basil
Gotta
Rathbone's
get
in
home
it
for
too.
Christmas. Okay.
What about have you? I mean, not that I would ever want to watch these movies again, but some of these modern Christmas movies are just dreadful. Did you ever see like Christmas
Fred
with
Claus?
the Cranks? You ever see
No.
Christmas with the Cranks or
Nope.
Surviving Christmas with Ben Affleck?
The only good modern Christmas film is Elf.
I can't watch that though.
Fuck off. You don't like that shit?
I'm not into Will Ferrell. I just can't. I'm sure Elf is good. I remember seeing it when it came out, but I have no
it's
desire.
good. It's funny.
I have no desire to watch that. I could probably watch like the Santa Claus with Tim Allen, but
Now, for me, the best Christmas film is just to watch like Lord of the Rings. I don't know. I'm sorry. Just you don't like those?
they're too much.
What do you mean?
I don't know. It's
Like-
just
you like
it's,
Lord of the Rings?
it's like overwhelming, man. It's like
Oh, okay.
I don't know. For me,
Well-
I don't know why we used to watch The Day the Earth Stood Still around Christmas time.
Okay.
I don't know why, but that just
I get that.
I don't know. But anyway, yeah. So I think at least one show on Christmas stuff, and Thanksgiving there's nothing, so pick something else. But
Okay. Yeah, Thanksgiving we could watch 1492 Conquest of Paradise, the forgotten Ridley Scott Columbus movie.
never heard of that.
Yeah, no one ever has. They fucking hid it from you, dude. They
What do you think
pretended.
about that? What do you think about that Napoleon movie he's making?
I'm gonna have my
good, or you think
brother
it's gonna be
Gus on.
crap?
My brother is a Napoleon expert.
Really?
Expert.
Okay.
And he said it looked good.
Really into it? Like
Expert.
that's like his hobby?
Yes.
That's
He
cool.
loves Napoleon.
That's awesome. I mean, because
When people talk shit about Napoleon, he gets pissed.
it
So he
looks
loves Napoleon.
it looks like it has the potential to be very good. It also looks like it could be a train wreck at the same time. It just depends on. It's like it could go either way.
Yeah, it looks okay. I mean, Ridley Scott's been a super hit or miss guy for the past 20 years. So
I really did like House of Gucci though.
Me
was his
too.
last.
yeah,
People
I really like the. You know, what I really like the
shitting on that
Counselor.
movie.
Everyone
I was
hated
like-
the movie The Counselor. That was really good.
Wait, which one was that?
That was the one that Cormac McCarthy wrote the script for. It was about like drug business. It had Michael Fassbender, and it was really good.
Mhm.
And it got like a fucking 10% on Rotten Tomatoes. It's great.
I will say, and probably will get some hate for this, but I did not like The Martian at all.
I didn't either. I thought it was super gay.
Oh, I just thought it was so boring. And I've
Yeah.
said this many times is that I cannot stand science fiction that is not fiction. It's not these people that are obsessed about hyper realistic science fiction. It's so boring. It's
The
like,
Martian was the most like Reddit brain movie. Science is awesome.
yes, exactly.
Like-
It's for like super analytical people that think
No,
like,
it's for people who are aspiring smart people.
yes, that's a good way of putting it.
That was a horrible, boring ass movie. I
That's-
hated that movie.
I don't want
I also hated the hyper egalitarianism of the film where we had all these people like working together and stuff. It was just that makes me sick.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm glad because I hated that one.
Hated
And
that movie.
Everyone was like, "What's
And
wrong
also, it
with
just
you?
felt like I'm like
wrong with
Ridley
you? Why don't you
Scott
like The
made
Martian?
this.
Why don't you like The
Yeah.
Martian?" And I'm like, I thought it was boring.
I'm gonna science the shit out of this. It's like that's cool to a certain group of people that I have no interest in hanging out with. I hated The Martian. I thought it sucked.
Okay.
Yeah, it
Good.
was like just really cringe.
Yeah.
I liked Gravity.
Didn't see it. That was one of those ones I was like, I know I'm gonna hate this.
It was good.
Sorry.
I liked it.
Alfonso Cuarón is like,
The first 15 minutes are like
Okay.
incredible. The rest of the movie, okay. The first 15 minutes blew me away in the theater.
what else is coming out this year?
Nothing. I don't care. Nothing's coming out. David Fincher's movie with Michael Fassbender.
Didn't he already make
The
one?
killer. The killer.
Oh, what about the Scorsese Killers of the Flower Moon? I mean, it looks incredibly,
I'll
you
see
know,
it.
there's a word I would use to describe it with a
The
W, but
white man is taking everything away from you.
it could be good. I mean,
It looks like an Avatar, like Dancing with Wolves. Like Leo is like the white ally or whatever. You know what I mean?
I know, but it's Scorsese though. You know, it's not James Cameron. This is a different
Trembling
level.
Colors says The Martian and Interstellar are the same lame movie to me. That's
Oh,
not
thank
true.
God. Thank you.
No, it's not. The
Thank you.
Interstellar at least
I
has
could
like
not.
some like
Two
psychedelic
thumbs up.
shit
Two
going
thumbs
for it.
up for that. I was gonna say it, and then I
Oh,
did not want to get into a whole thing about
no.
Interstellar. But I couldn't
The
stand
Martian.
Interstellar either. I hate Interstellar. I'm sorry. I can't stand it.
Really? I mean, it wasn't my favorite,
So
but like I kind of
boring.
liked it. I mean, it was
Oh my God,
okay.
it's so boring. Please, that's why
Whatever.
I love Christopher Nolan doing Oppenheimer, because it's like, yeah, take that obsessive compulsive disorder and put it on something that actually happened, rather than making up your pedestrian like sci-fi nonsense about, oh, I'm moving the books from the future. And it's like,
See, but you're smart. Like, so you know it's dumb. But like me, I'm a dumbass, so I'm just like, well, it's cool. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
but it's like,
so I was like,
yeah, I
okay.
get the visuals were impressive, and I sure
I
loved it.
like when Matt Damon was like, "There comes a time when I must do," and he like pulls open that lock and like blows himself out of space. I thought that was pretty sweet.
Well, I am looking forward to seeing Saw X for sure.
Marietta asked, "Does Moon, the Duncan Jones Moon 2009 pass muster?"
I
I
didn't
mean,
see
it's
that
up to
one.
you, man. I saw it a while back. I remember really thinking Duncan Jones is pretty interesting because I thought Moon was all right. I liked Source Code with Jake Gyllenhaal a lot.
Yeah,
Thought
Source Code.
Source Code was really cool.
Yeah.
Moon is okay. I mean, I like that Moon is kind of like reaching back to stuff like Silent Running or like 70s like paranoia space stuff.
I wanted to see it. I
that
remember when that came out.
it was
I
okay.
was in New York. No one wanted to go see it with me, so
Yeah, it was okay. I think I saw
never
it.
saw it.
Well, I did see it. I saw it like in 2010. But yeah, I remember liking Source Code and thinking Duncan Jones had a lot going for him. He's David Bowie's son, the director.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, that's awesome. I didn't
Yeah, he
know that.
changed his name so he wouldn't have to be, Bowie, right? And
Oh,
then he also made that World of
embrace it.
Warcraft movie.
Embrace it,
What?
man. Embrace it. It's like
He
it's
was
one of the
doing a
greatest.
Nicolas Cage thing, right? Like, Nicolas Cage is Francis Ford Coppola's cousin.
Yeah. Or
Yeah, he's
nephew,
doing that.
nephew or cousin. I can't remember.
Something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I
Yeah,
remember.
another Nicolas Cage National Treasure.
Nope, would be happy to. I love National Treasure.
Somebody made a video
The
about
first National Treasure movie, I think that movie's awesome.
who did the one about the decline of the adventure movie. I was watching somebody else. They did a really, really good job about Indiana Jones and National Treasure and other. I forgot which channel that was on, but it was quite good. The decline of the adventure movie over time
Yeah.
from Indiana Jones, and then National Treasure is like kind of like, it's not at the level, but it's like inspired. And then how like this person didn't like Uncharted or any of these other movies. And I was like,
I didn't see that.
Uncharted was fun. It's disposable fun. I wouldn't. It's good for like a streaming night in.
Sure.
So you're not going to see Saw X?
No.
Come on, man. Looks
No.
great. Did you see that?
I
Did you see that commercial they made, the ad for Saw X that they made, where they made fun of the Nicole Kidman AMC trailer thing?
No, I didn't.
Oh my God,
No.
it's so good. And AMC complained to Lionsgate and they had to pull it. And it's
Really?
Jigsaw wheeling himself into the theater, and he's like, "We come to the theater for blood, for mayhem." And it's like he's like
that's great.
spoofing the thing, and he's like on a silver screen, like blades.
I thought that Nicole Kidman video was really cringy, and I hated it.
Oh, it's so cringe. That's why this is so good, because it's
Someone was like, "This is good." I was like, "Okay."
No,
Like,
man, they roast the hell out of this thing. It
reminds me a lot of like that Doug Stanhope bit where he goes, "You like drugs?" And everyone in the audience is like, "Yeah." And he goes, "You ever see them advertised?" Right? He goes, "No, because shit people actually want doesn't need to get advertised." Right?
Well, all these movie ads, movie theater bumper things are cringe. Like Regal has the other one where it's the people going into the theater and they're all reciting famous movie lines. Have you seen that one? And it's
No,
like
it
the
sounds
guy's like,
bad.
"This place is bigger than my apartment," and he's like, and then everybody's like, "Yeah, so that's a thing," and like, I knew it was you, Fredo, and it's like,
Sounds
I'm
bad.
pretty sure like 99% of the people in the audience have no idea what movies any of these are from.
I read a
And
good essay, and I wish I could have the link to it right now, but it was about like this idea of people making culture, like pop culture references in public life, right? And he
yeah,
goes, "This what they're doing is a retreat to the private, which is the world of when you watch movies in your house. It's a private world, right, where you're alone, and it's like bringing that world into the public as like a safety blanket for yourself." Which I think I'm like, okay, I could see that, right?
yeah, I'm guilty. I'm guilty of doing the movie
So
references
am
thing.
I. I am
But
too,
I
but
do
I,
it. I do it's kind of you kind of do it as like a feel like you put feelers out too to see if people understand. It's kind of a good way to like see like, oh, do they know what I'm talking about or not?
right, like when I quote Deliverance at my work, and I'm like squealing, so you're like, well, you know.
This
Uh,
sounds a little scary.
a little much. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, I gotta let you go. I gotta go sleepy.
Oh,
But
okay. Sure.
this was a good deal. I think you guys hope you guys enjoyed us talking about Hammer. And I had a great time.
Yeah. No, it's fun. It's fun.
Always
Definitely.
fun talking to you, brother.
I agree. I've had a lot of fun. And so until next time, got 4 new movies to
Yeah.
watch. And
What would be the date? We're gonna look at Wednesday. We had to push it back. I had a work thing I had to do, but looks like probably Wednesday the 4th of October will be the next episode. And
yeah, that should be fine.
you will be coming out with your list of to watch, and I'll get on it.
Yeah, it should be those 4, unless I think of definitely the 3 that I mentioned: The Shadow of the Cat, She, and Taste the Blood of Dracula. And
Perfect.
then the 4th one, if The Mummy, if I don't think of anything else. The Mummy's
Taste
good.
the blood. Taste the blood of Dracula reminds me of that Spinal Tap album. Smell the glove. Like a
Dude, I don't know what you're gonna think. I don't know what you're gonna
taste
think.
it.
I don't know what you're gonna think of that movie.
Well, what do you think I'm gonna think of it? I'm gonna
I
like
don't
it.
know, but like it's so I laugh out loud at
Taste the
some of the scenes.
blood.
There's the reincarnation scene of Dracula is priceless in this movie.
Looks great to me, man.
Oh man.
Are there attractive young British gals in it?
Yes. But like I
Okay. Is
die.
Christopher
I
Lee in it?
die.
Like
Yeah, Christopher Lee's in it. He says like
those
5 words.
two.
He says like 5 words. They have killed my servant. No, they must.
Maybe one day I'll be able to say that in seriousness, and I'll know I've made it.
But yeah, I mean, it's just for that one moment, and the rest is fine. But like, it's worth the price of admission.
I'm pumped. Do you like my little graphic I made back there of all the guys?
I know, it's impressive. How did you do that?
Photoshop.
I'm terrible with Photoshop. I can't do anything.
I just screwed
I mean,
around
you
with
see my
some posters and
thumbnails.
stuff.
God.
They look good.
Okay. They're not like yours.
Well,
Jeez, what time is it? It's like, what is it, like quarter to 10 where you are?
I wake up at like 5 o'clock every morning.
Oh yeah, those days are over for me.
Yeah, I get up at 5 in the morning. I gotta head to my manual labor gig.
I used to wake up at 5 to get to work.
Actually, to be totally honest, if I didn't have to get up at 5, I would still do it. Because yeah, you feel like you have the jump on everybody.
Yeah.
I like it because you're like awake, you're by yourself, just doing your thing. No one can fuck with you. You got like an hour to chill, eat your toast, read a book, drink your coffee.
Perhaps.
To me, it's like highly. No, I'm not saying I aspire to get up earlier. I'm not trying to like guilt anybody here, but like it's something that I've worked hard to kind of do, and when you do it a lot, you kind of get used to it.
Oh yeah, I did it for many, many years. Yes.
Yeah, but like I like it. Like if I get up at like 7, I feel like I'm like fucking way behind. Like I never want to.
I get up at 6.
I never want to wake up. That's perfectly reasonable.
Yeah.
Like that's great. Like, but if I ever wake up and I have a text message from somebody, I'm like, oh fuck. Like, you know what I mean? I want to be the texter. I want to be the one who knocks. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Sure.
Okay.
All right. Well, let's call it a night then.
Absolutely.
Thank you
Thank you
to
so much.
our viewers who actually showed up.
Yeah,
and,
we had a good little crew tonight running
yeah.
around.
Yeah.
We'll make sure you guys get the movies in advance so you can tune in and chime in. Please, we love when you chime in.
Yeah.
It's fun.
And then I look forward to having we'll have a guest on the show, in the future too.
Yeah, we can take a little
Crusader
break, or maybe we can do one in a week or two, like not every 2 weeks, but we'll do one like the week, with the Damn Fool Idealistic Crusader.
Yeah.
And just because I'd like to hear his opinion on, like, hey, what's going on in home video.
Yeah, no, for sure. It's an interesting topic because
he has a great channel you turned me on to there, because I like to think of myself as like a home video collector, but compared to this guy, I'm a fucking absolute piker, right?
Yeah, me too. I mean, I don't. It's to my detriment. I don't understand enough about the stuff behind it. Like I don't. People talk about the disc quality and all of that. Like I don't understand. I mean, obviously, I can tell the difference between a DVD and a Blu-ray and a 4K. Like you can see the quality. Like I don't understand about all this other stuff in depth.
When he's like, though it's different than that, I'm like, are you watching this shit with like a fucking magnifying glass like 3 times in a row and then watching the new release? I mean, like, are you pausing time on your clock stopper's watch like to do all this shit? Like, what are you doing?
Maybe. But we need
no hate. I mean, this is impressive,
like that,
right?
We need people like that, yeah.
Because he's like, this is not the same as the DVD release in 2003.
Oh my God,
it's different.
I was very
impressed. Color timing is different. I'm like,
I was super impressed with those Republic cereal reviews, and he's like reviewing the VHS tape, and I'm like, wow, like
yeah, this
is impressive. I'm like,
when he's reading,
I want to be at that level. Like, I want to know. I'm like, I've watched a bunch of Republic serials, and I've tried to find books and reference materials about it, but like, there's so many, and you can't find them, and I want to watch them on Blu-ray, and it's like, this guy's got them all on tape.
I saw that he read basically every expanded universe Indiana Jones novel.
Oh yeah.
Now, if you read one of those books, how long could you realistically go stream of conscious on a video reviewing one of those? 20 minutes?
Oh, I don't think so. I'd probably go like 5 minutes.
He's going an hour 20.
Yeah. I don't know if I could make it through the book, to be honest with you.
This guy's an MK Ultra patient. I mean, like, this guy has been zooted up with something, right?
It's impressive. This is what I aspire to be,
I know.
Feel like a fraud,
Me too. I'm listening to this shit. I'm like, I don't know, dick. Like, because
this is the point of all this, though, is to learn and to talk
exactly and to make connections. That's the reason why I did this, is because I would listen to podcasts like that Fourth Wheel non-friend, and I would be like, well, what if I like made my own shit and then I got to be on the show and like, you know what I mean? That's what I want to do, right? Where I listen to this guy, I'm listening to him talk about like tech specs, and I go, well, this guy might know a lot about technical stuff, but he doesn't know a lot about movie history like me. And then I click on the next video, and he's like just rocking movie history. And I'm like, I'm obsolete, right? I'm like, this guy, I mean, I'm fucked. I'm an absolute idiot compared to this guy, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, aren't we all?
So
that's why it's like you gotta have a niche. You gotta have an area that you're
a grift.
You're the guy, I mean, I don't know if I have that. The closest thing that I'm probably on like that is I know Hanna-Barbera cartoons. I know it's kind of weird, but that's like my thing that I know about, for better or for worse. I could probably do videos on, I don't know, maybe I'd do better.
No, I would love that.
Freaking Jabberjaw retrospective.
No, I want you to do a Space Ghost.
Oh yeah, I'd love to do that. That's just, series are so labor intensive though, because you got to get all the clips. I know. What I am doing besides this,
we could do one together. I would love to do a Hanna-Barbera like in like January or February. I'd love that.
Okay, I'm down for that. The other one I'm doing is for TV. I'm doing this is a series that I am like also like super into, and I've seen it like a million times, is top 10 episodes of Dragnet. I don't know if you're familiar with that show or not.
No, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, Jack Webb,
Never
Sergeant Joe
seen it.
Friday. Like, I love that show. The '60s revival one, where it's like a
Yeah.
giant middle finger to the counterculture of the time, and it's like respect your police and your authority figures, and don't do drugs, and
For
you know,
complaining.
it's
Yeah.
just there's episodes where they just talk for half an hour, have a discussion about like marijuana and drugs and pro and con, and then they arrest the guy at the end. It's like,
Yeah, I'd love to watch that.
yeah. So I have a top 10 writing that for that, because I've seen those like
Okay.
100 times each. So
Let's do Space Ghost, dude.
Space Ghost. Those
You
are
know, here's the
those
thing.
are good. Those are
They're
good.
good. Now, Johnny Quest is the absolute best.
Oh, I'd love to do that.
Right.
'Cause that would be good for like a discussion thing, because there's no
Oh,
point in
hell
making a video for that, because that's been done.
The guy did it already, right?
Yeah.
But like the thing that somebody told me on YouTube was like, he goes, a lot of people don't do a video because they go, well, somebody else did it better. I mean, you can find a better thing. But what you fail to realize is that when you cultivate a fan base, they want to hear from you. They don't care if it's already been done. They want to
You
hear
can
your
find something else to talk about, like Johnny Quest. You wouldn't do it as the history and retrospective. You would do what you think are the interesting kind of like little tidbits or things that you notice from watching it many, many times,
Yeah.
that you like about it.
Totally.
And that's what I like. I did the Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer and the Grinch videos. Like, I try and point out little things that I noticed or I liked about it, or what it means to me, as to make it worthwhile. And it's like, you could probably find some PhD in Rankin Bass history who could give it better on Rudolph than me. But like,
does your family get down for Christmas?
we're but not I'm the only one who likes these types of like.
I mean, like, is Christmas a big deal? Like, everybody get down, have a good time for Christmas?
Yeah.
Oh
Christmas
God.
is very important.
Last year, my brother had a White Russian on Christmas Eve. Set it down. My mom's little tiny Boston Terrier drank the entire thing.
My God, was he okay?
No, he almost died. We had to take him to the fucking hospital. My dad's like, you better take that goddamn dog to the hospital, or the Christmas is gonna be fucking ruined. This dog gonna die.
Yeah.
And
They pump his stomach, or what'd they do?
No, they said he was okay. They sent him back. He was just extremely groggy for the entire rest of Christmas Day.
Oh my God.
But, no, I'm excited. I love the fall. I love Halloween. This is a good thing that we're doing.
And this was a good topic, because it's boring to do, 70 slasher movies. Like, everybody's
done
do
it.
that. Like,
Yeah, let's do
I don't want to talk about. I mean, maybe in the future we could talk about Friday the 13th, but like, I don't want to talk about just all the freaking Friday the 13th sequels.
I don't either.
Ad
Though I
nauseam.
did watch. My brother-in-law came and spent the night here and was hanging, and we were hanging out on Saturday night and having some beers and stuff. And I was like, "You want to watch a movie? Yeah, Halloween film?" And he goes, "Yeah, that's fine." And I put in The Burning. It's like an hour and a half. It's fun. We like, my wife was there. We just talked and bullshitted and laughed and watched it. And
he liked it?
Yeah, everyone liked it. It's scary enough and kind of crazy and fun. And I love that movie.
I don't know how people will react to older films a lot of time, people that I know, because they're not into it at all. Like, no one I know, like, besides my brother, will watch older movies. Like, my friends are not into it at all.
Really?
Yeah. Oh no, not at all. They refuse. Like, I've been able to get my one friend, he'll watch an 80s movie, like, but they will not watch like 70s movies or below that.
Really?
Yeah. Like, we watched like Big Trouble in Little China and Escape from New York. Those are like stretching it,
Sure.
That's
Really?
cool though, that
That's
people are
stretching
open to watching.
Oh yeah, we all really enjoyed it. It was fun. It's a good
Yeah.
little movie, and George Costanza's in it as a young man.
But like, what's the future going to hold? I mean, are there
movies will become like books?
Are there always going to be people like us though that just naturally fall into it for whatever reason? And
That's right.
I don't know.
It'll be like being a voracious reader no one else has read. They'll be like, "Well, I read Catcher in the Rye." It'll be like watching Titanic, right?
Yeah. But do you think the lack of, I guess there's more accessibility than there ever has been in the history of the industry and the medium. But do you think that not having that like availability on like TV of like cable channels just showing old movies like just
That's a good, yes,
randomly,
that's right. Where you would just have no other choice and you'd watch it and realize you
yeah,
liked it.
or
Yeah,
you'd
that's fine.
stumble upon it and you'd be like, oh, this is cool,
I
or
think
like
it's also the propensity, like the lack of available home video releases from the studios, or their insane penchant to want to just like make a shitty Photoshop poster for everything, and it sucks.
well,
And
now they're talking about the streamers are gonna. They're complaining about they have all this back content on there that no one's watching. So
mhm,
they're gonna they'll probably remove all of the old content off these streaming things like from Warner, from Max or from Disney or from whatever, because that's
yeah,
prime real estate. And you always knew that was gonna happen.
that's why we kept collecting home video, dude.
But it's just, I mean, that's how I got into all this. Is that what Cartoon Network? What did they used to show back in the day? They used to show all
Looney
60s,
Tunes,
70s. Oh, well, besides Looney Tunes, they would show 60s and 70s Hanna-Barbera cartoons. They would show the
absolutely,
Flintstones, the Jetsons, Top Cat,
100%. They
Scooby-Doo,
would. Johnny Quest.
and they would be on TNT. It would be on TBS. It would be
Yep.
on those channels too. Nickelodeon would show old, even stuff. They would show stuff from at least from the 70s and 80s, and more from the 80s. At least you'd see that kind of
TCM
stuff.
I watched as a kid, right?
Yep.
I
I
remember
didn't watch it as
seeing
a kid, but I didn't. We didn't have
I
it as a
did, yeah.
kid, but
Like
got it
12
later.
when I was a kid, my mom was like, "Come watch Pillow Talk with Doris Day and Rock Hudson with me."
Oh, that's
We were
awesome.
like,
Yeah,
9. And I just fell in love with the idea of like Technicolor, and I was like, "Why don't movies look like this anymore?
I
It's
know.
so beautiful. Like I want to be there and live there, and I love that." You know?
But on that same, I think that's super cool. Like, well, obviously we do, but like I was talking, I had a girl I was dating, and she was like, I just can't get over the way the old movies look. Like it's just distracting. Like, and I was like, but that's the whole like part of the appeal and the charm. And then like,
Really?
I just can't fathom that aesthetic is off-putting to you. It's like
I just made my wife like them, and here's the thing. She's like she just bears with me because she loves me, and she never remembers any movie she's seen. She's like a very like math brain smart person, but like I'll be like, "You've seen this before. Remember you saw that?" No. I'm like, "We watched it." But she doesn't complain. I get to watch all sorts of manner of goofy shit with her, and she just kind of is like, whatever, right? But she, like a lot of other gals, just she loves like watching TV shows. She loves Outlander. You ever heard of Outlander?
I've heard of that. Yeah, I've never watched that.
Her and my mom both read all these books, Outlander. Whereas my wife is like, well, I like TV because I don't have to make a choice. I just know what I'm watching. I just click the next episode, right? Whereas I have all these lists of like shit I have to watch. You know what I mean? I'm like, no, tonight it's this, right?
But
She's
she
just
doesn't like.
like,
Did she watch those Lifetime movies and stuff like that, or the Hallmark Christmas movies and
no, I
stuff?
didn't watch those. I
Okay,
watched
good,
those.
good.
Actually, my brother and I were big fans
You
of the
watch those?
Vanessa Hudgens Christmas films. Yeah.
Why?
I don't know. I couldn't tell you why, but I liked them. And I called my brother and I go, you wouldn't believe what a fucking bitch I am. I've been watching 3 Netflix Vanessa Hudgens Christmas films with my wife. And he goes, yeah, I watched those too. I thought they were pretty good. I was like, well, so did I. A medieval night for Christmas, and then the Princess Switch. And yeah, this is Tremley Co's right. Yeah, it's an absolute female thing. They'd rather watch 9 hours of a show than 2 hours of a movie. Yeah, that's a common thing in the culture now. Yeah.
These Netflix movies, I cannot watch them. I can't make it through. I tried to watch
Tarantino said the right thing. He goes, they don't exist. Like, because they're on Netflix, not in the theater, they don't exist.
Okay. I tried to watch this Heart of Stone with Gal Gadot.
Okay.
Unwatchable.
Didn't happen.
I made it through 40 minutes. I was like, it feels like I'm just numb. Anyway, I catch you a little too long, but
you're
call it a night.
You wanted to keep me on the line.
I know.
That's
I just
okay.
want
You
to
can do
go
it if
all
you
night
want.
here.
I could do the same thing, brother.
Until next time, people.
Yeah. Guys, thanks for tuning in. Every one of our streams has gotten progressively longer. 250, that's the record so far. Our next one's gonna be like 310. That's okay. Send me your picks. We'll update the fans. Thank
Okay.
you, guys.
Until next
Courtney
time.
says movies shouldn't be more than an hour and a half.
I
Agree.
agree. Yes.
Genre films, especially. Good night,
Bye.
guys.
Good night.
Thanks for watching.